It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. If you've got a business, you didn't do that. You didn't build that. Somebody else made that possible. Yes, I'm quoting Barack H. Obama, and now he's back throwing it in everyone's face. As soon as I got off the air yesterday, I looked up at drudgereport.com with horror because it just shows how arrogant Obama has gotten. And there was the Real Clear Politics video of Obama yesterday that had just gone up. I saw it when it had like 30, 40 views, right when it had gone live. And there was Obama, right when I got off at 6 o'clock yesterday, at a commencement speech at a major university saying that we shouldn't think of government as something that's dangerous and filled with tyranny. Of course, it was George Washington that famously said that government is like fire, a dangerous servant and a fearful master. It was Ronald Reagan that said the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. And another one, in this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problems. Government is the problem. Let's play a clip of Ronald Reagan from 1981 with those famous words. Here it is.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. From time to time, we've been tempted to believe that society has become too complex to be managed by self-rule, that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people.
That was the central idea that won Reagan the presidency, a warning he had sounded consistently for years. You can hear it here in the speech that launched his political career.
This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
This was Ronald Reagan's debut as the great communicator, the nationally televised speech for Barry Goldwater that put him on the political map back in 1964. In fact, it was a speech he had been perfecting for a good...
Okay. By the way, tonight on the Nightly News, I'm going to get some Ronald Reagan clips. I'm going to host the news live tonight, by the way, 7 o'clock Central. I'm going to get some clips of Reagan and Ron Paul and others versus Obama. And you can say what you want about Reagan, what he actually did. The special interests got out of control and government got bigger. But at least the rhetoric was good. With Obama, I mean, you've got a guy making sure that billionaires don't have to pay taxes while lobbying to have people that make a couple $100,000 a year to pay more taxes. Why do you have billionaires lobbying for that? Because most of them, like Warren Buffett, make their money out of government bailouts. I have an article here where profits were up 49% for Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett. And then they admit in the article, like it's no big deal, that, oh, by the way, Warren Buffett got most of that off derivatives that were propped up with taxpayer money. Of course, that pig, that anti-gun, globalist, eugenicist, Bill and Melinda Gates, #1 Obama supporter, of course that pig blocked the Keystone Pipeline to bring oil into Texas for the whole U.S. out of Canada. Because he owns the trains that are going to now bring it via tanker to the West Coast and put them on super tankers to China. These people are doing everything they can to shut America down while making giant profits out of a controlled monopoly. What's Atlas Shrugged all about? It's about where ultra-rich use government to shut down their competition. I mean, crony capitalism is the plague, is the enemy. And now we've got Obama at a sports stadium full of young people saying government is not tyranny. Government is our sweetie cake. Government will now take care of us. Yeah, it'll take care of you. I mean, unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. It is Monday, the 6th day of May, 2013. We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours. Lou Rockwell, the head of the Von Mises Institute, is going to be joining us to track the incredible world events with gold, with the dollar, with the EU gyrating out of control, plunging into an authoritarian death spiral. That's the creator of the euro is now saying that it's going to totally collapse into a tyranny. Ron Paul and others talking about Europe collapsing as well. Ron Paul is in Europe right now. We've got some clips of that. We've got the unprecedented spectacle of a 28-month war against Syria using al-Qaeda jihadis, now culminating with Israel bombing chicken farms, military installations, bridges, chemical plants, and Syria is there laying down and taking it, and the media is denouncing Syria as warmongers and saying they deserve to be absolutely carpet bombed for doing nothing. And Israel is publicly siding with NATO and, of course, al-Qaeda in those operations. Syria says that Israel airstrikes risk a wider conflict. They're blowing up military barracks, you name it, desperately trying to get a response. And then if Syria responds, the news will say that Syria has preemptively and premeditatedly started the war first. And we'll go, wait a minute, for over 2 years, the West has been attacking them, including a NATO-backed Turkey with 3-day-long artillery barrages. It doesn't matter. That's how dumbed down the public is. All they know is they're foreigners, so kill them. That's all they know. And you've got the neocons giving Obama right cover, saying, how dare you not be tough on Syria? When Obama has been able to attack Libya, Syria, overthrow Egypt, and put all these globalists in power. I mean, this is hardcore what's happening. So we're going to be looking at that as well. Also, I have announced, and I do plan to go to Bilderberg 2013 in England. Over 130 people are blocked from entering England. Basically, they mix in a lot of patriots in with real terrorist groups and others. Michael Savage has been banned from going into the country. I don't know if they're going to ban me. I've been to England before. But if they do, that will just become a media event as well. I would rather actually get over there, cover it. People are always asking me to go to England. We're very popular in England. And I like to cover Bilderberg. I like to ferret out information. I do intend to go over there. Alex Jones calls on World Press to cover Bilderberg 2013. You can see my thoughts and points that I made with Paul Watson via Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com if you want to see that article and some of the photos and information there. But I'll be covering that more later in the broadcast. But Israel's launching more. They're now at 2 days of airstrikes on Syria. This is just incredible. Syria attacked no one. Syria has tried to work with the West. Assad was basically raised in England. He's been trying to work with the West, trying to make peace deals. And the answer is, no, you're going to be overthrown, and al-Qaeda is going to be put in charge, and they're going to ethically cleanse the Christians, the Jews, and minority Muslim groups. Syria will choose the moment to hit back. UN accuses Syrian rebels of carrying out sarin gas attacks, which have been blamed on Assad troops. And again, I don't ever think the UN's a good organization. It plays the left cover side, created by the Rockefellers. But the truth is, the al-Qaeda rebels a year ago videotaped themselves testing nerve gas and saying they would use it against Assad. They've been trying to get into their bases to get a hold of it. And then Israel says whether the al-Qaeda rebels get the nerve gas or whether Syrian government uses it, they're going to strike them because of it. I mean, Israel can't support NATO, the U.S., France, and Germany, and England, the UK, in a 2+ year covert war. Now Obama announced heavy weapons to be given. And what did they list? heat-seeking missiles. They've already given them the heat-seeking missiles. And on the cover of the BBC website, they showed a jihadi with a heat-seeking missile launcher on his shoulder that can shoot things down up to 5,000 feet. I'm going to say that again slowly. The West has given at least 10,000 heat-seeking missiles with a range, an effective range of 5,000 feet. They actually have more than that because I've seen the breakdown of the weapons they were given. They've also been given unguided rockets, point and shoot, that have an even longer range. Ladies and gentlemen, all they got to do is go to a European airport, an Israeli airport, a U.S. airport. You can sit back 2-3 miles from the airport. I mean, where I sit is close to the Austin airport, and the planes sometimes come in at 3,000, 4,000 feet. You could sit, I guess I'm like 4 miles away. You could sit 4 miles away from the Austin Bergstrom Airport. There it is, Seattle Times. Syrian rebels show off heat-seeking missile. Yeah, that was back in November of last year. That's a year ago. I mean, this is the type of craziness that we deal with here, almost a year ago. And when I fly, they'll say, hello, Mr. Jones, we're taking you over here to grab your testicles. Literally. They single me out for extra groping, extra harassment, and they call me Mr. Jones and laugh at me, and they laugh at Jesse Ventura when I fly with him, and grab his crotch and laugh, and then had the nerve to ask him for photos in Atlanta after they grabbed his testicles in front of me. And then Ventura wanted it erased off my phone. He was so embarrassed. He goes, I'm glad you documented it, but erase it off your phone, while we sat there at a Mexican food place eating. That's embarrassing. And that was when he made the decision. He goes, I'm not going to fly anymore after this season, and I may get out of this country for good. He began to say, this is East Germany. I'm sick of this. You all know who I am. You're laughing at me. And these women were laughing, rubbing all over him. They had women doing it. I mean, incredible photos. I'm sitting there going, because they'd already searched me. I'm just sitting there with my iPhone, click, click, click. I had like 30 photos. It was just like out of South Park. Literally, the exact characters out of South Park, the exact voice. South Park must have flown through Atlanta because it was like, let me look inside you. I mean, this is what was going on. It was the exact people from the South Park episode. Obese black women. I guess here in Austin, it's obese white women. The point is that I sat there and I witnessed it. These would have been Drudge Report material photos. And he said, Alex, let me see you erase them. And I erased them. I go, you want to see? He goes, I trust you. By the way, Ventura's back in town. Remind me to call him today. I want the time to get him on before anybody else does. No, he's been back for a few weeks. I need to go up there and go fishing with him. I know I'm invited to go fishing. I think I'm going to go fishing in Minnesota, except I don't want to be groped on my way up there. All right, side issue. Yes. You see those women, if you're watching us on TV? That is exactly what they look like. In fact, one of them looked just like her with the hair up. The other one looked like your light lady. I mean, I don't know how they did it. I thought I was in a South Park episode when this was happening, because that had just come out. You got to laugh at this stuff or you're going to have to cry, ladies and gentlemen. And I mean, I'm telling you, they took their time with Ventura when he really got mad, because it is a violation when they went behind him with their hands. And then I thought you're supposed to have the same sex search you. Quite frankly, I like a different sex doing it. You know, I mean, I'm not going after women when I get a massage, but I don't have men give me a massage. I've had it one time, and I thought it was creepy. So I like women to give me a massage. It's not even sexual. It's just that, you know, why is it okay that the same sex does it? Like if they want to drag my son off to a private screening room or want to grope him, it's like, don't worry, it's a pot-bellied guy with a mustache. I mean, I don't want my son being abused, having his innocence ruined by anybody. But if it's going to happen, I mean, at least let it be a hot blonde, you know. I mean, you know, excuse me. Or well, yeah, grandma, it's kind of creepy, man. Anyways, the point is that, well, why is it okay that you have these women that obviously like women? It's been written about in the press. In fact, that Miss USA talked about her. Was it Miss America? It was Miss USA in Dallas, how the woman was clearly enjoying it. There have been a bunch of good-looking actresses talk about how it's women and how they clearly get excited. There was a case in the Panhandle. Was it Amarillo? Yeah, they had to settle 2 years ago. They had a case in Amarillo where this woman was a knockout blonde, and the men got her aside, made her take her blouse off. And if you don't believe that, folks, they settled the case. And you've seen them take people's clothes off. You know, all those videos online, little kids, old women, colostomy bags they rip off. I mean, you name it. And then they get mad at you when I mean, this is what goes on. And there she was in her bra crying, and then the men swarmed her. It was men doing it, and asked her for a date. And they sued, subpoenaed, got the surveillance footage, and they settled for a big chunk of change. TSA settles with Texas woman. Try that article. You can put it up. There it is. Lawsuit, airport search incidents, Amarillo, Globe News. Yeah, that's where she sued back in 2010. They settled the next year. TSA settles with Texas woman. And by the way, I tried to get her on, but they were in the lawsuit, so they wouldn't come on. So I'm supposed to, how did I digress? When I come back, we're going to get more into Syria coming up with Lou Rockwell. The bombshell. Obama says, hey, if you've got a business, you didn't build that. You didn't build the internet. The government did that. No, the human mind did that, not you. Now he says government is not tyranny. It is love. It cares about you in a sports stadium. Okay, so yesterday, Obama gave a speech to Ohio State University graduates. And this is exactly the speech he's given over and over again that high-ranking Secret Service agent Bongino had to quit over last year, where he says the government is what creates prosperity. The government is what made America. Every philosopher, every historian, from de Tocqueville right through to Oppenheimer, the inventor of the A-bomb, we read some of his quotes yesterday on air, said it is the individual ingenuity unbound by government that created so much wealth. And you're like, well, America hadn't been that free. That's right, it hasn't. But compared to other countries in the area of free market, it has been light years ahead. Light years. And you look at Switzerland, smaller government, light years ahead of Europe. You look at any country where they get out of people's way, the only problem is there's been so much prosperity and so much wealth that the children of the children of the children that made the country great become decadent slobs, and then organized crime sets in and takes over. And then you get a big, powerful government and country that's run by crooks, and then it's Nazi Germany time. You get a big, powerful, rich country that goes bad. The U.S. has gone bad, folks. We've been taken over. We're going to make Nazi Germany look like pikers. It's already happened. But our propaganda is so good, and nobody's beating us, the globalists that run us, the parasite globalists that have crawled inside our political brain and wrapped themselves around our brainstem. They are so good at their propaganda that they are able to continue forward, though it's starting to grind to a halt a little bit. So they're doubling down. The world is in an epic crisis. It was George Washington that said, government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearsome master. And I've got more of those quotes coming up. But here's Ronald Reagan, two clips from two different speeches Ronald Reagan gave. Here it is.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. From time to time, we've been tempted to believe that society has become too complex to be managed by self-rule, that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people.
That was the central idea that won Reagan the presidency, a warning he had sounded consistently for years. You can hear it here in the speech that launched his political career.
This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives
All right.
better than we can.
And, of course, he was quoting Thomas Jefferson there with the far distant elite. We're going to cover that when we come back. But here's Obama yesterday at Ohio State University in a sports stadium packed full of young people, because most of the new jobs will be in government or select corporations getting government money, corporate welfare. And here he was telling them, hey, government is the answer, and don't let people badmouth it. Well, the American way is to keep government small. Notice we didn't keep government small, so the prosperity, like oxygen disappearing out of a submarine, is dissipating. Let's go ahead and go to that clip of Obama yesterday.
We, the people, chose to do these things together because we know this country cannot accomplish great things if we pursue nothing greater than our own individual ambition. Unfortunately, you've grown up hearing voices that incessantly warn of government as nothing more than some separate, sinister entity that's at the root of all our problems. Some of these same voices also do their best to gum up the works. They'll warn that tyranny is always lurking just around the corner. You should reject these voices, because what they suggest is that our brave and creative and unique experiment in self-rule is somehow just a sham with which we can't be trusted. We have never been a people who place all of our faith in government to solve our problems. We shouldn't want to. But we don't think the government is the source of all our problems either, because we understand that this democracy is ours.
All right, that's enough.
And as citizens, we understand.
I'm going to come back and analyze this, but we're a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And the government is foreign run now. And if we ever recognize that America has been hijacked, that will be the beginning of the end for these people. That's why they're responding to us, because they know that we're getting the message out. Stay with us. They are tyrants. Alex Jones here, back live. We're here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. It's 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. And then we come back weeknights, 7 o'clock, InfoWars Nightly News. If you're not a subscriber at InfoWarsNews.com or PrisonPlanet.tv, now is the time. 11 memberships for $5.95 a month. That's less than 55 cents per person. You create one master username passcode, share it with 30, 40 friends and family, because it's very unlikely that 11 people will tune in simultaneously. 11 people simultaneously can tune in to the nightly news show, get the video feed of the daytime show, see all my films, ebooks, dozens and dozens and dozens of other films. For the last few years, it's all been going up there in high def as well. The streams obviously aren't, because most computers can't handle that. But the point is, you then also pay for the bandwidth. Now, again, create a username passcode that you can share, create an e-card, and give it to 30, 40, 50 people in your family. If you try to log in then one night, and you can't log into InfoWars Nightly News, mission completed. More than 11 people are now using the username passcode. Go and get another membership for $5.95 a month. The message is, wake people up. If I had unlimited money and could just pay to have the bandwidth, to have InfoWars Nightly News and everything we do for free, I'd do it. But that's not a model that's sustainable. So we use the free market. We're hiring more reporters, more crew, adding more graphics people, more researchers. It's all happening right now. So become a part of the revolution against tyranny, part of the restoration of the republic. You have built Infowars.com. You have supported Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. You have supported this radio show, and we support your liberties and freedoms as well. We are brethren. We are, to use the communist term, but in a liberty fashion, fellow travelers. We're on the same team. We're together in this fight. And I want to thank all of you that have been PrisonPlanet.tv members, and I want to encourage everyone that is, make it today the day you send the username passcode out to everyone you know. Or if you don't want to share that membership, create a new membership. Go get another membership and give it to friends and family. Buy the books, buy the videos. By the way, will somebody run me in the new magazine? It's right over here, but I can't reach it. Let me do a plug right now before I get back into Obama. This is the, 9th issue of the magazine. It is the May issue. And if you're listening in Central Texas, you're in a very special place because there are 60,000 of these on the streets of Austin, 20,000 on the streets of San Antonio, and another 10,000 or so smattered around in different areas of Central Texas. 30,000 or so are held back to be able to be shipped out to you at cost. You can either buy them in 10 packs up to 100 at cost, or you can get a subscription. Gift subscriptions are the way to go, because then somebody gets 12 of these in their mail. Great way to wake them up. Big, glossy magazine covering the history of staged terror, the attack on the Second Amendment, the whole police state, how to awaken America. It's all in the new issue, the history of false flags, and, ladies and gentlemen, so much more, like 3 high quality, not paper, but plastic, the big, heavy, petroleum-based that lasts for years. Infowars.com, Save the Constitution bumper sticker, prisonplanet.com bumper sticker, and Infowars.com bumper sticker. What a weapon. We're talking, I did the math, 200,000 bumper stickers in Central Texas right now, waiting on the free newsstands for you to get them and post them in legal and lawful areas. This should be explosive. I want everybody to go out, get them, post them, and this is a test to bomb other cities with info weapons. Legal and lawful areas, your property, your car, or in commons where people, some bars or areas let you put up stickers, or restaurants. The point is, that's like the wallpaper. This is going to be explosive. InfoWars magazine, get it today. And by the way, this will sell out unlike any other publication. Of 9 publications, we've had 6 of them sell out. This one is set to sell out, it looks like, in 4 or 5 days if it continues. I'm tempted to have more printed, by the way, because they're selling so quickly and have more bumper stickers put on them. So anyways, InfoWarsStore.com is where you can find the subscription to the magazine and everything else. Pro Pure water filters, 10% off with promo code WATER. Now, there's a bunch of military news, economic news. Lou Rockwell's coming up. Ron Paul in Chile. Chile is the southernmost part of South America. I don't know why I said Europe. I was reading he's also going to be going to Europe soon, so that's why I said that. He's in South America right now. We're going to no one caught that out there, but I caught myself. Again, we make mistakes. When we do, I point them out. It's usually I flip things around because my brain's moving so quick. I know that happens to you as well. But we've got just a ton of important info we're going to be covering here today. It's just overwhelming. But I wanted to read to you some quotes here. This is from Thomas Jefferson. A private central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army. We must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. So that's one quote. And I've got some more of the Founding Father quotes I want to get to. But it's very important to go to Paul Watson's article on Infowars.com, because it not only has Obama at the speech to a packed group of young, impressionable minds with the image of a giant jumbotron up above the stadium right out of 1984, but it has the Ronald Reagan speech to counter it, and I'm going to have Paul Watson add some Founding Father quotes to that as well. But one more time, let's play this Obama speech from yesterday afternoon, where he doubles down on, you didn't build that. The state is the answer. I mean, that is North Korea talking. That is Nazi Germany talking. We know historically this is so diametrically opposed to what this country's been based on. You cannot debate that. And the fact that they're involved in this radical transformation, they're telling the military, you can't talk about Jesus. You can talk about anything else you want. Don't talk about Jesus. You have a right to talk about your faith. They're telling school kids all over America, you can't thank God at your commencement. Your commencement is your private statement. You could say, I love soccer. I love baseball. I love Marilyn Monroe. I love Schlitz malt liquor. I love Gatorade. I love Parcheesi. I love Tiddlywinks. I love gardening, or I owe this all to my dad or my single mom, that made me work hard, that I'm valedictorian.
So call us today or
First Amendment. The First Amendment clearly states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That means government can't be involved. The First Amendment says the government can't, at a public school, say we're now going to worship Muhammad, or we're going to, or the Prophet Muhammad. We're going to worship, Allah. We're going to worship the Virgin Mary. We're going to worship a rock. We're going to worship a whale. We're going to worship whatever it is you worship. We're going to worship dogs like the Zoroastrians do. The state can't do that. That's what Thomas Jefferson was talking about. And Christians don't even debate this, most of them that I hear on radio, from the right perspective. They're like, I hate Thomas Jefferson. He was anti-Christian. No, he wasn't. He said you have a right to practice whatever religion you want and to talk about it. The state cannot have an official religion. And so now they say, oh, troops can't talk about Jesus. Oh, you can't go at your commencement speech and talk about what you want. And that gets to the point where you can't say USA, USA, USA when a San Antonio basketball team is winning. That, by the way, they did the math, was half Hispanic, but the other team was more than half Hispanic and thought, because I guess they identify themselves as Mexicans, not Americans, that that was against them, when all it is the chant everyone does when they're feeling good now. I think it's quite mindless. I mean, I would chant USA, USA. Let's play some more of it. If we abolished the Federal Reserve, if we arrested David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger for crimes against humanity, if we restored the Republic, if we got rid of the IRS and the income tax that goes to the private Federal Reserve, if we educated people that vaccine science is real and may have some benefits for artificial immunity, but that the globalists have been caught adding stuff to it and are involved in a eugenics program to cull the herd and lower IQs. If we stopped using the Monsanto BT corn and stuff that kills the bugs that eat it, but then we're supposed to be able to safely eat it when it grows its own pesticide as a pharmacological crop. If that ever came out, and instead of us going from 1 in 25,000 with autism to 1 in 51 now, and people being brain damaged and illnesses everywhere from BT corn, and there's a big study out on it today. And if we started reversing the trend and it was 1 in 10,000 getting autism, I would say USA, USA, USA. When we win for the Second Amendment, when we reverse tyranny and restore what makes USA, USA, USA something worth chanting. But you don't chant USA, USA when the police lock down 80% of a city and come into houses and grab women who don't even look like the reported puppet, Patsy, and throw them down the stairs. That's when I chant USA, USA, USA. But I'm now digressing. Imagine Obama coming out and saying, if you got a business, you didn't build that. And then he wants a civilian force just as big and just as big as our own military. A domestic drafted force of youth, which they've now been graduating and are now involved in warrant service, surveillance, citizen spies under InfraGard. And if we have a debate about it, they go, Alex Jones is crazy. He thinks there's thousands of armored vehicles, billions of bullets, and citizen spies, when you can go read officially that's been set up. Because, again, they're using another military tactic on us, knowing we're atomized, knowing we're all individuals. And so even if we know it's true, what organization do we fight through? That's why they hate Infowars.com, because we're able to organize people. We're able to show you you're not alone. We're able to force this out and call them on their lies. It shows two things. Not enough people are involved as leaders. And it also shows how pathetically weak the globalists are. That my ham-fisted broadcast, toe-to-toe with the New World Order, with a little help from our friends in the real media, are able to devastate the globalist, lower their approval ratings, and force major stories out in the open. And who are the little help from our friends? Number one, you, the listeners. The sponsors of this broadcast, number two. Giants in media like DrudgeReport.com, in true media. And George Norrie helping us out, and of CoastToCoastAM.com, and so many others who love their children. Let me tell you, you know we're on an express elevator to hell. You know we're on a roller coaster going into a bad place. And if you don't get involved and realize that dangerous mega cartels have walked into America, bought off our government, run their own candidates for office, and are now trying to demonize states' rights and demonize patriots because we're the only opposition to them. But the truth is we have the moral authority. We have history on our side. We have the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the law. I mean, they're now on CNN with FBI agents going, yeah, we're listening to everything you do. It's for your safety. That's a felony every time they do that. They are flaunting torture in your face, hoping they can normalize it. They are flaunting secret arrests in your face. They are flaunting martial law. They are flaunting military drills. They are flaunting the end of the 4th and 5th Amendment. They are flaunting warrantless checkpoints to try to get you to just roll over. You can do two things in a fight if you're cornered. Roll over, get in a fetal position, and kiss your butt goodbye. And most cowards take that route. Or you can charge up and turn it loose. And let me tell you something. Even if somebody is bigger and badder and meaner than you, when they're attacking you, they're not in the right. And they don't have the energy. And even if they're 3 times stronger than you and better trained than you, if you kick and bite and snap and poke and punch and just turn loose your human power, you will stomp their butt 9 times out of 10. And even if they're the baddest guy in the world, I'm using the fight analogy, they're not going to want to mess with you a second time because they're going to get hurt bad. And it's the same thing with government. You roll over, you worship black uniforms, you worship tyranny, you go see movies, propaganda movies like Iron Man 3, where there's terrorists blowing everything up in a false flag to cover up, genetically engineered soldiers that are exploding. You go see that, and Olympus has fallen, and this movie. All these movies about bombs going off in U.S. cities, right before and right as it happens. It's all programmed. I've talked to the people in Hollywood, not just Hagman of the X-Files, who the CIA approached him with the plot of flying a hijacked jet in the World Trade Center to blame it on Al-Qaeda, who they run, and using a drill to make them stand down. Do you understand that? I mean, I see the PR rollout. Oh, they got a bunch of movies coming out about bombs going off all over America. Get ready. That criminals love to brag and tell you what they're doing. And then you go fantasize that America still exists and that America's fighting Al-Qaeda. And you've got some guy out of the Middle East, the last Iron Man. He's fighting a guy from Russia. And the one before that, he's fighting, terrorists in Afghanistan. And that's where he gets the Iron Man suit. It's all the same, when in truth, the globalists run Al-Qaeda. The globalists are the equivalent of Spectre or Chaos or Cobra. They tell you in all the shows, they're laughing at you. They teach you the bad guys are this phantom group that nobody can stop that wear a mask. Because the government is the terrorist. Because the government is a foreign banking combine that's attacking every country. That wants every country enslaved, that wants every country authoritarian, because then they can come in and dominate and have top-down integrated systems of authoritarian command and control economy. So they can play God with your life. When we come back, I'm going to play the clip again and get to these quotes of Obama. You guys punch my computer up. I want to show people this image. This is up on Infowars.com right now. The image is up there on the site of Obama on a Jumbotron at the Ohio Stadium, like something out of 1984, with tens of thousands of people there hearing that the government is what makes the grass grow, that the government is what organizes society. This is pure command and control collectivism from a guy run by Warren Buffett, whose wealth just increased 49% in 1 year, and who has in fact, I'm going to dig the article back out. You guys put that Warren Buffett article back up there that has just a giant amount of cash. And if you look it up, he got roughly $45 billion in 2008 of banker bailout money. Gee, why do you think Obama called for it as a senator? And in cash, ladies and gentlemen, in cash, the man is rolling in some of the biggest cash reserves in the world. Directly your tax money. Now you know why Warren Buffett wants higher taxes. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go over some of these headlines. By the way, I have a correction to make. I was going off mental notes, and I just said Warren Buffett had a 49% increase in profits from taxpayer money, mainly. By the way, that's in the AP and Reuters articles. A minor footnote. I'm sorry. I conflated and flipped the two numbers. Will you guys punch this up here? Actually, my Bloomberg article. Punch it up here on my screen. Berkshire cash hits record $49.1 billion as profit climbs. So they've got an extra cash there. And then its Berkshire profit rises 51%, shares at record high. And Reuters says Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway Inc. on Friday and quarterly profit rose nearly 51% on a solid performance in insurance. They make you buy Obamacare now. He was the chief lobbyist for that. And by many of its other businesses, as well as gains from investments and derivatives. Guys, will you guys pull up Warren Buffett got bailout money? And let's see if my memory is correct. He got $44.5 billion. $44.5 billion. This is not a parlor trick. We're going off my memory here. Warren Buffett, just type in Warren Buffett for TV viewers, you'll see it. Warren Buffett got bailout money. And it was $44.5 billion. Now that was round one. That was 5 years ago. Oh, don't worry. It's been lavish. Oh, I'm sorry. All they could find was a newer one. I'm sorry. It's $150 billion. I'm sorry. But wait. On that, he got 44.5. Read the fine print. 44.5 bill. 44.5 bill. And he's up there going, my secretary pays more tax than me. I want to raise your taxes, you schmucks, you sucker scum. By the way, I'm on a eugenics board that's been leaked on how we're going to jack you up with vaccines. I want you to eat that GMO corn, okay? Because I'm such a good man. Warren Buffett, champion of bailout, also leading beneficiary, McClatchy. Can you say dirtbag scum? You want to know why they're setting up police state? You want to know because they can't believe they've gotten away with these crimes. Warren Buffett, let's not exaggerate, is about 500 times worse than Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff stole around $100 billion in Ponzi schemes. But Warren Buffett is connected as a Rothschild Rockefeller agent on record to a large portion, some estimates are a third, of the global $2 quadrillion. It was $1.5 quadrillion. I've been using that number for 4 years. I looked it up. It's estimated because they've increased derivatives over $2 quadrillion. Yeah, and you know what? The men in black uniforms are going to make sure you sign on to Too Big to Fail because it's designed to fail, and make sure you go down with a ship while Warren Buffett's flying around in his jet. And that's what the whole grid and the spying and the torture is about, is to make sure you do what you're told. And the cops are all going to salute as their pension funds and guns are taken as well. Yes, sir, Warren Buffett, we bow to you because you got a red carpet. I can't wait to get Lou Rockwell on in the next segment. We've got an FBI agent saying what we already knew, that the government listens to every phone call on CNN, just flaunting it in our face. Obama has doubled down on his "you didn't build that" quotes. He has come out and said that government is basically what generates, most of the good things in society, telling a group of college students who, most of which will not be able to get jobs unless it is with the government. And they've already actuaried out how under this new system we're all going to be poor except for them. Warren Buffett, that is the main beneficiary, one of the main beneficiaries of banker bailout money. And again, Buffett also doesn't just want your money. He wants to bankrupt you and says you're living too high on the hog and having too many children. But, if you type in Warren Buffett's name, he's always almost seen with an ice cream cone to be non-threatening. I'm convinced if Hitler would have worn a pink uniform and held ice cream cones, as you type in Warren Buffett ice cream cone, there's literally hundreds of photos. ice cream, that we'd be under Hitlerian rule right now. If he said hope and change for the children, I'm a loving liberal, and if they would have given him a Nobel Peace Prize, it would have been over. When he was attacking France, Russia, you name it. In fact, I nominate Adolf Hitler for the Peace Prize because I don't like Hitler, but to be clear, oh, look, he's got an ice cream cone. He's not threatening. Sure, he gave $40+ billion of taxpayer money he stole to eugenics operations because he loves you. Look at a nice old man. A nice old man. He's a nice old man. He's a nice old man. He's going to take good care of you and your family up there in Lincoln, Nebraska. We all know what goes on up in Lincoln, Nebraska. Warren Buffett wants to take care of you and your family as he gets your taxpayer money, $150 billion of it in one serving alone. We're going to go to Lou Rockwell and talk about that. And no wonder I'm an extremist against the bailouts. They say now, you know, first they admitted that it was your tax money to bail out foreign banks. Notice now when you hear in the news, yeah, we're bankrupt because you're lazy, America. You're not working enough, and it's the people on welfare that did it. And I'm not for the welfare because it makes them dependent. And it makes them a voting block for government. But these people are getting chicken feed compared to the 2 quadrillion. Oh, look, Obama. There's hundreds of photos of him with an ice cream. He's not threatening. See, they know that hits areas of your mind associated with childhood stuff. It's like, look, Obama's not threatening ice cream cone. Sure, he is arresting whistleblowers all over the country that report government crime at unprecedented levels. Sure, he's using al-Qaeda to attack Syria and other countries. Oh, look, there's Bill Gates with Warren Buffett and an ice cream cone. See, I mean, it's not threatening. It's ice cream, folks. And they talk to you like you're children. When you go see movies like Iron Man and stuff, it's designed for children. Every show, America's good and America's fighting terrorists. And then you look at the real world, the people that run America run those terrorists in every case. Even the cases where it's a real crazy that attacks, you find out they have some MI6 or CIA or Mossad or French intelligence or German intelligence handler. And then when there's major bombings in Russia, it kept turning out that it was Putin people. They even Moscow police caught Putin, FSB, planting bombs in a 4th building in '99. And they said, oh, you have to release us. It's real bombs, but it was part of a drill. Oh, see, now you know why they have drills. And I'm supposed to just sit here and be naive and go see Iron Man and sit there and just walk out and cry for America. It's like guys that go see Rocky and then, you know, walk out of the Rocky movie and start a fight in the parking lot and get their butt kicked. I mean, it is imaginary. Notice they had Pearl Harbor come out right before 9/11. And Rand Corporation said there's about to be a terror attack on the order of Pearl Harbor. When there is, we will radically transform America. I mean, they think you're stupid, folks. They brag openly about all this. They think you're dumb. Are you dumb? We are here, ladies and gentlemen, live, Monday through Friday, from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. We come back weeknights, 7 o'clock Central, InfoWars Nightly News. Find out more at InfoWarsNews.com or InfoWars.com/show. And, of course, I also have the Sunday show, 4 to 6 p.m. We're hiring more reporters, more crew, more journalists, more researchers. We are trying to pour every dime of support that comes into this operation in defense of our constitutional republic. We take it personal that these nasty authoritarians tell us we didn't paint our own oil painting. We didn't create a new engine. You didn't create a new song. You didn't learn how to play the guitar. Your mother and father didn't raise you. You didn't pay enough taxes, on average, more than 55% of everything you earn. No. If you've got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen. Well, now Obama, and this is up at InfoWars.com, we're going to play the audio and video right now, has come out and said that government is not a tyranny and we shouldn't listen to the voices that say that, like George Washington, like Thomas Jefferson. Last hour I read a lot of their quotes about George Washington. Government is like fire, a dangerous servant and a fearsome master. Thomas Jefferson, same quotes, on and on and on. Our country was founded against this. Ronald Reagan, who didn't live up to what he said he'd do in many cases, but at least had rhetoric saying the most scary words in the English language. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. I have run into, in government, more arrogant criminal people in my life than anybody else. And government's growing, 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 growing. It now spends, what is it, 60% of the GDP one way or another is going into government. And it's going to be more and more into the future. They've signed us on to $2 quadrillion now in derivatives. And look at the articles I showed last hour. We're going to Lou Rockwell. Berkshire cash hits record $49.1 billion. That's just their cash as profit climbs. And what does Reuters report their main profit was from? Derivatives and insurance. Making you buy insurance, the price doubling roughly in the last year. That's on record. Congressional Budget Office. The main lobbyist for the government-run health care, making you buy overpriced insurance. Then government tells doctors what care they can give to make sure your bill isn't too high. And who got $150 billion, $44 billion to himself in the first round of bailout? Reuters, please. McClatchy, please. Put it on screen. Warren Buffett. Who lobbies for higher taxes on you? I'm going to explain this to all the stupid socialists out there. It's right out of Atlas Shrugged. The big rich guys shut down one guy's railroad, so their railroad gets all the traffic. Same story. Keystone Pipeline. There it is. Warren Buffett on AIG, McClatchy, $150 billion bailout. That was 2008. I did the math. Do you know how much his group of companies has gotten in different Federal Reserve type bailouts? It's over $300 billion that you got to back up and pay for. There's McClatchy right there on screen. 300 billion smackers. Oh, you want to know why they want a tyranny in place? Because they know you may take America back and they're all going to go to jail. But you got to identify the tyranny first, and that's what Obama's scared of.
Brand proven to reduce
To the original idea of big government is a tyranny. Out of control government is the ultimate threat. Big government is the plague. Infestation of government is the plague. Corruption within government, as Cicero said 2,050-something years ago in Rome, their main historian, the rock star of his age. Now, I want to play this clip and go to Lou Rockwell because this is like
Fair is clinically proven to help significantly
nails on a chalkboard. I know this is like nails on a chalkboard for Lou Rockwell out there. This is Obama at Ohio State yesterday, doubling down on his "you didn't build it" statement and saying we don't need people saying, you know, these people that say government can become a tyranny and always warning about a tyranny that's about to come around the corner. No, it's already here. Tyranny's already here. They're on CNN saying, we listened to all your phone calls and it's for your own safety. We have that clip coming up. They've gone from denying it to admitting it and saying it's bad to now saying you're lucky we care enough to listen to everything you do. You're lucky we put the CIA bomber on the CIA payroll, Tamerlan. That's confirmed. You're lucky we had martial law in Boston. We're going to talk about it all with Lou Rockwell, play a clip of Ron Paul's speech in Chile, and more. But the good news is this show's getting more popular. LouRockwell.com is getting more popular. Ron Paul's a rock star worldwide. I'm very popular worldwide. The anti-New World Order Libertarian Party, UKIP, only a decade or so old, has exploded and has won the major elections over in England. But the enemy's going to counter-strike back. They're now saying we're basically terrorists in the news. Anybody that wants liberty, why, that's the new terror threat. Think of that. That convicts them right there. That shows they're wild authoritarians. But here is the Obama clip, and then we'll get Lou Rockwell's take on it. This is from Ohio State yesterday.
We, the people, chose to do these things together because we know this country cannot accomplish great things if we pursue nothing greater than our own individual ambition. Unfortunately, you've grown up hearing voices that incessantly warn of government as nothing more than some separate, sinister entity that's at the root of all our problems. Some of these same voices also do their best to gum up the works. They'll warn that tyranny is always lurking just around the corner. You should reject these voices, Because what they suggest is that our brave and creative and unique experiment in self-rule is somehow just a sham with which we can't be trusted. We have never been a people who place all of our faith in government to solve our problems. We shouldn't want to. But we don't think the government is the source of all our problems either.
All right, that's enough. Shut him up.
Because we
Lou Rockwell, founder of the Von Mises Institute, Ron Paul's former chief of staff, one of the leading intellectuals for liberty out there worldwide. What he's doing there, I want to get your take on this, is clearly recasting it that if we vote for big government, that's America empowering government, and that America is government. And he's telling the young people, you're part of that larger collective. I mean, this is direct Mao Zedong, paraphrasing quotes for those that don't know. I knew I recognized it yesterday, and it just clicked. Those are Mao, basically Mao quotes. 7 of his czars have quoted Mao. Lou Rockwell, what does it say about where we are that they are now this brazen, sir?
Well, you know, I actually think, Alex, this is good news. I mean, they're actually worried about people like us. So he's, you know, if there's one thing, if you want to get young people, I'm talking about smart, intellectually curious young people, not the younger equivalent of the sheeple, but smart young people. If you want to get them interested in something, tell them, don't read that. Don't listen to that. Pay no attention to that. So what is of course, the first thing they do is they want to find out, what am I being told not to look at? So Obama is talking about, he's talking about libertarians, anarcho-capitalists, people who correctly point out that the government is mankind's greatest enemy on earth, that it is the predator, that it brings about all these wars, that it takes all our money, that it spies on us, that it puts us in prison camps, and you know, the U.S., of course, the world capital of putting innocent people in prison far more than any other country on earth. We can just go right down the list. Of course, the U.S. is a tyranny. The government is a tyranny. Still, the American people, or certainly enough of the American people, are still devoted to liberty, don't want to be run by the government, don't want to have their phone calls spied on by the CIA, and their emails and their texts and every other communication. So I think there's more and more opposition, even though this is a very difficult era to be living in for people who believe in liberty. But I think that liberty is so creative, the government is so stupid, that I'm very optimistic about the future, especially about the young people. And I'll bet you anything, there are a lot of those kids at Ohio State who listen to Obama who today are looking up people like us. So I think he made a mistake. But again, it shows, of course, his heart. It shows where he is. It shows the danger of, frankly, mass democracy, which has led to some of the biggest, worst governments ever. Hitler, of course, was elected. And many, many bad governments, why we've had, Hans Hermann Hoppe writes about this in his great book, Democracy, the God That Failed, about why the worst wars ever have come about under democracy.
And the public is so ignorant.
Ever come about under democracy.
Sure, some new listeners are ignorant to the fact that when we badmouth democracy, they think we want authoritarianism. Will you briefly explain the difference between a republic and a democracy, sir?
Well, a democracy is an unlimited government that where people believe that if you can get the majority to vote one way, and of course it's never the majority, all these elections are decided by minorities and sometimes small minorities. But if an election, if people in an election decide for anything, it's legitimate. Well, of course that's not true. People, you know, if people can decide to take somebody else's property through a democratic election, that's not legitimate. They can decide to start a war. They can decide to bring on a much bigger government under, say, Bush or under Obama, the two sides of the same rotten coin. But, you know, that doesn't mean self-government. What we believe in is self-government. So sometimes in American history, traditionally you have, yes, people voting in local elections and that sort of thing. But that's not the same as a mass national democracy where you have a mass national media running things for the government, where where we're given no choice. Where it's, you know, creep A is versus creep B. That's American democracy.
That's right. They finance two fake choices that are really the same flavor of cyanide-filled Kool-Aid and then ram it through. The Republic puts absolute blocks in. You can't take the guns. You can't make somebody a slave. Then they argue, well, there were slaves. But it was the proper interpretation of the Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, and Constitution that ended up banning it. The media, you know, they put in the original Constitution, as you know, to ban slavery, but they couldn't get it through then. It took more time, but it was the idea that was finally implemented. And again, the Bill of Rights doesn't give you your rights, folks. The Constitution doesn't. It points out what's already there organic. Lou Rockwell of LouRockwell.com is our guest. I want to come back and get into the Syria situation and so much more. Alex Jones here, back live. You know what excites me about people like Lou Rockwell, Ron Paul, but also so many other people out there, especially young people? Everybody's starting their own radio shows, their own news shows. We post and link to the reports that Lou Rockwell and his crew are putting out. They're becoming very popular. All of us have to just engage the globalist, engage the corporate kleptocrats that use big government to control markets and shut down their competition and domesticate people. Now, the next segment's a long segment. I want to get into gold, Syria, where he sees the world going, where he sees the Republican Party going. Is there any opposition within that system? Where does Lou Rockwell see the future going in specifics? Because he is a very astute political mind. But first, here is an MSNBC host, Perry. Remember a month ago, she came out and said, your children belong to everybody. And they're selling this idea to where now in Austin, people come up to us and say we shouldn't have 3 kids in Whole Foods. They're telling their forces, get aggressive. Obama's telling his anti-gun forces, get aggressive. Go out and get in people's faces. See, they need grassroots support. And they're definitely becoming more authoritarian. They've set up this Secure Corps, AmeriCorps, Stasi force. They're announcing they're spying on everybody and saying if someone says they hate the government, call the police on them. I mean, that's why I start ranting. These are dangerous creeps. Let's play the clip.
We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
Melissa Harris Perry, that's a promo they still run on MSNBC. I mean, this is so unprecedented. Again, why are they doubling down? Why does the FBI come out at the Boston bombing and say, don't look at other evidence, don't look at other photos of clearly a drill happening? I mean, I think they are losing touch. Lou Rockwell.
You know, first of all, this woman is lying. I guess like every phrase out of her mouth is a lie, because they don't actually believe that your children or my children belong to the community. They believe they belong to the government. They don't believe they belong to our next door neighbors or the people in the town we live in. They believe they belong to the government. And indeed, our children have belonged to the government, according to the so-called law, for a very long time. If
That's
the
right.
Child Protective Services or some family court judge or whatever can decide to take away your children on a whim. So yes, your children don't belong to you as far as the government is concerned. Of course, as far as God is concerned, as far as human nature is concerned, of course children belong to their parents. Of course children don't belong to the quote-unquote community, let alone to the rapacious and predatory government. But this is a totalitarian meme. This is, you know, they're pushing totalitarianism right across the board. And when I can stomach watching MSNBC, which is not very often, I notice that these advertisements that they show are the most totalitarian things they have on there. I mean, they're just openly Soviet-like. And so we need to know the enemy.
Well, that's my question. That's my question, yeah. is why, for those that don't know history, this is direct Soviet. I mean, this is the stuff. In fact, I mean, even the Soviet Union wasn't that over the top in a lot of
Even Hitler didn't say that the children belonged to the government, but of course the Soviets did.
But so why are they like going haywire in an orgy of government worship?
Well, they feel this is the time to push. And I think part of the reason is they feel they're making progress under Obama and they made progress under Bush, but they also are worried. They're also scared. This is why they're saying things that are actually crazy, a little too revealing of their real agenda. So this is good for us. It's good that this woman is making this kind of a statement. As you know, thanks to you and others, it went around the whole World Wide Web. So this is good. It's good that we know that these people have these kinds of ideas and what they want to put in effect through, of course, the government, which Obama praises as, you know, the great locus of progress. It's actually the locus of violence. It's the headquarters of violence in society.
Look at North Korea.
Well, or look at the U.S. We don't have to go to North Korea. We don't have to go to the other bad countries. There are plenty of bad countries in the world. Let's concentrate on our own country as you do. Let's look at what the U.S. government is doing to us, what the U.S. government is planning to do to us. I mean, North Korea is not trying to read my emails, but Obama.
Absolutely. America, the globalists that run America, is the monkey on our back.
They keep talking, of course, they talk about North Korea, North Korea, North Korea, and then it drops. So it's gone away, and I guess it'll come back again. North Korea is not the problem for us.
No, I agree with you. I'm just saying if Obama loves a total state, look at North Korea where they can't even manufacture their own cars. Everywhere government becomes total, everything collapses into the dark ages.
Yeah, I think that maybe who knows, maybe they've learned from the experience of the Soviet Union or the experience of the other communist countries or North Korea or whatever, that the power elite, the oligarchs, are not well off enough in that kind of a system. So they actually want a fascist system. The U.S. system is fascist. They want to increase the fascism. So communism has never been a threat.
Stay there. I want to give you the floor when we come back to describe what the American system has become versus the real American system. Then we'll look at the war in Syria, gold, Ron Paul, and so much more. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Thank you so much for joining us on XM 166. I'm told in 2 days the channel changes. In fact, pull up that email for me. I want to give the channel out right. It's 244, right, John? Yeah, it's a 244. That changes in a couple days from 166. The entire channel is moving over there, not just our broadcast. Again, Lou Rockwell is our guest. I'm going back to him in a moment. I want to ask him about Boston and the new idea. In fact, I sent you an IM this morning, guys. Do you have it? I sent you the text of what somebody said about this is how the professionals, keep us safe. Will you guys print me that off the instant message I sent you, Chris? Because I want to read that on air later, where the guy's like, this is how professionals keep you safe, coming to every house, grabbing your wife by the hair, shoving you down the stairs, pointing guns at you where you're all suspects. Any of them could have been accomplices. Well, the cops could have been accomplices. Oh, but I'm not supposed to say that, even though government has a history 9 times out of 10 of being behind the terror attack. But that's a separate issue. The new issue of the magazine, speaking of issues, will sell out. You can buy it in bulk or get a subscription of the May issue, False Flags, exposes the history of government-sponsored and provocateur terror, gets into the Second Amendment, and so much more. It's a double cover. It's got a cover on both sides of the magazine as well. And it has 3 free big bumper stickers in it. That's about 400,000 bumper stickers total. So we printed over 100,000 of these. Imagine what this will do if you put them up in legal and lawful areas. So get those today. They're also on the streets of Austin and San Antonio and other cities that put them out on the streets as well. So if you see them, get them and give them to your friends and family and get them on your cars because it'll have a massive effect. Now, Lou, I want you to walk through. You've got the communist and socialist models, but what I see us having is a corporatist model. As Mussolini said, that's the definition of fascism. You correctly peg it. So as the head of the von Mises Institute and a man who studied history, I see them using socialism grassroots to socialize one sector of society and then play it off against the free market sector that is parasited to death at over 50%. In France, it's over 80%. But I see them segueing where they're just exempt from our laws overseas. The mega corporations get the lion's share of the taxpayer money in bailouts and government contracts. So it's almost like socialism and communism grassroots with a police state with offshore fascist exempt above it. So it's even worse than fascism. What would you call this system they're establishing? I mean, I agree it's more akin to fascism, but I mean, what do we really call it?
Well, I think, Alex, you're right. It's a corporatist system. And we just have to look at Obamacare. Unlike, say, the system in Britain or France or other countries where the state directly owns, or Canada directly owns and runs the medical system, which of course is horrendous, we have a fascist system. So you had the actual Obamacare bill written by the big insurance companies, by the big hospitals, and especially by big pharma, run for their benefit. So it's the big corporations, big government in alliance against the rest of us as tax victims and victims otherwise. So I think that is the model. And I think that whether we look at the national security state, which is all these big companies who were involved with the government in surveilling us, whether we look at the military-industrial complex, any other aspect, it's what Mussolini said, the combination of corporatism and the state means fascism. So I think that's the American system. Began really with Franklin Roosevelt, whose New Deal was based on Mussolini's economic program, and it's gotten worse ever since. And of course, especially since 9/11, it's been galloping worse. So I still think, though, that most people, whether they're in Boston or otherwise, are sheeple. It's too bad. Wish it weren't the case. But everything is done by minorities for both good and for evil. So we don't need the majority. The majority is just go along to get along. But there are minorities who are for, of course, this state and making everything worse. There are people who are openly for a totalitarian state. I mean, for something equivalent to Mussolini or Hitler or Stalin or those sorts of systems, they would use different words, they use different rhetoric, Mao Zedong, as you're saying, but they don't, of course, ever use the direct rhetoric of those regimes, but that's the sort of thing they like. And then there are people who oppose that, who are knowledgeable, who understand what's happening, who read, who think independently, who don't let their opinions be controlled by Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or the rest of the Pravdas of this current regime or the Kokesh Beobachters or whatever. They don't let their minds be controlled by that. They think independently and they think critically. They teach their children to do the same. This is the hope of America. Indeed, it's the hope of the world, that in other countries, too, there are people like this. So I think more and more people, young people especially, Ron Paul is the main reason for this, has woken up young people in this country and all over the world to the problems we face. So I think it's a race. This has been the race, by the way, since the Garden of Eden, or so shortly after the Garden of Eden, between those who want power for the violence prone and the killers, and those who want the power to be with the families, with individuals, with communities and businesses and peaceful activities, with the arts of peace as versus the arts of war.
That's right. Successful, smart people can't keep people away and have so many friends and so many opportunities that you tend to just become solitary, whereas losers crave and enjoy abuse of power that for someone who's powerful is nauseating. I mean, seeing people exercise undue power and abuse people is abhorrent to a normal person.
That's right.
But the problem is we don't lust after power, so we always end up under scum.
No, we don't want to run the next door neighbor. We're not to run the next door town or the next country or whatever. But of course, there are people who lust to kill, lust to rule. They enjoy sending young men out to kill and be killed. They get a charge out of it. Those are the people who tend to rise in government. And of course, they're the scum of the earth. So they're our enemies. They are the parasites, as Obama indirectly described them, who are just a pure cost to the human race. They're not a benefit. They're a pure cost. And those of us who understand that, who oppose it, not with violence, because of course they've got all the guns and the tanks and the bombs and the sarin gas and the biological warfare and so forth. That's the government. So we oppose them with our minds, by refusing to consent, by educating ourselves, by finding others who agree with us, trying to persuade others. And in fact, the more we know, the more people will come to us for an explanation of what the heck is going on and what to do about it.
Let me ask you this before we get into Syria, and then we're going to have open phones the next hour after Lou leaves us, listeners. In your gut, looking at the geopolitical moves, what's happening, seeing the accelerated degeneration of the Western elite, where they're even cutting each other's throats politically, the establishment's becoming more delusional, which you see in the bottom of a decadent phase. What do you expect to see happening? Because I have an article right here out of Rolling Stone from last week. Everything is rigged. The biggest price-fixing scandal ever. The Illuminati were amateurs. The second huge financial scandal of the year reveals the real international conspiracy. There's no price the banks can't fix. And it goes into how the stocks, the bonds, the health care, the interest rates, everything is fixed by 16 too-big-to-fail banks. It's really about 6 mega banks that set the precedent. And then it just goes, he goes, I apologize, the conspiracy theorist, you're correct. Well, and it's a 14-page article. Well, I mean, you see articles about people colluding to rob a bank. That's a conspiracy. The idea that big organized business isn't in a conspiracy with government throughout history, isn't the greatest danger throughout history. You ignore that at your folly. But it's not just this article. I've seen, let's not exaggerate, 15, 20, a whole bunch of articles the last week with big, prestigious writers coming out and going, okay, it's true. Big, mega rich really do run things, and they got their money by stealing it. I mean, I was talking to a reporter just the other day, and he didn't even know that Glenn Beck and Obama had supported the banker bailout in 08. I mean, this level of ignorance. What happens when the corruption gets so naked, so brazen, that they say Mao Zedong is our hero, and parents aren't parents, and veterans are terrorists, and Christians can't talk about Jesus at a commencement or in the military? I mean, this is getting so Twilight Zone, Lou Rockwell, of LouRockwell.com, that I can't believe it. How much more nuts is it going to get, and what is the method? So, and out of that, where is this going? Then Syria.
Well, here's what they face. It's true that the big banks are running everything. We live in a bankocracy in Europe and in Asia too. Big banks are extremely powerful. I want to recommend a great essay that's free online, Murray Rothbard's Banks, Wall Street, and American Foreign Policy. Just put that into Google and it will come up. It really explains how these various power elites operate. But they run up against the laws of reality because there are certain things they're doing that have an economic impact, no matter what they hope or think, or no matter how many people they fool. The kind of money printing that is going on will bring them down. Now, of course, it's going to hurt us too, but it will bring them down. What they're doing cannot continue. The laws of reality will prevent it. So therefore, I think they are coming down. The big banks, the whole financial system, because of the things they're doing, Bernanke can't actually change the laws of reality. He can't change the laws of economics. They apply to him just like they apply to all of us. So the banks are all, of course, fractional reserve. The money's not there, folks. Just not only the people in Cyprus whose money isn't there, your money isn't in the bank either. So the more people understand this, take their money out, try to avoid dealing with the banks, try to have private cash uses for their money and so forth. They hate ATMs, for example. They don't like you taking cash out and using it in everyday transactions.
Sure.
You're just supposed to use checks and digital transfers. So, but they can't stand against the laws of economics and reality. So I would say in the long term, not the short term, but in the long term, we have every reason to be optimistic.
I agree with you. Let me raise this point. Syria, the La Land level of the government buying 2 billion, 200 million bullets, admitting it's for us in their own army documents that we've shown, now it's over 7,000 anti-mine giant black armored vehicles I see driving around Austin. Their response is, it doesn't exist. Alex Jones is insane. Now there's congressional hearings. They're freaking out, still saying, Alex Jones, he's nuts. It's his fault. I mean, articles every day, as if I have something to do with it. Sure, we broke it and forced it out there with Matt Drudge of DrudgeReport.com. But then, and you say, what does it have to do with Syria? Then you've got them saying, we've got to invade Syria because Al-Qaeda might get chemical weapons, when our government and NATO 2 years ago began inserting Al-Qaeda in to commit war crimes. And then they call Obama a peacenik. I mean, it's reaching la-la level. What do you make of Israel now going into day 2, day 3 of blowing up military barracks? And then our media is like, how dare Syria? They're so violent. I mean, it really is entering a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs level.
No, I've noticed any number of stories saying, how dare Syria say this is an act of war? How dare they say that? So when Israel bombs them, so let's look at what Syria is. I'm not defending the government of Syria any more than I defend any other government, but it's the last secular Arab government in the world. It's not Islamicist. They don't have any Al-Qaeda types there. So what does the U.S., Turkey, Israel, France, and Britain do? They create a group of rebels in Turkey at the various U.S. Air Force bases in Turkey, as Sibel Edmonds points out. They're put into Syria. They're armed by the U.S. and its cohorts. Probably they were given sarin gas, because the sarin gas that was used, as even a UN official said today, was used by the rebels apparently, not by the Syrian government. This group is all Al-Qaeda types. which the U.S. has always used al-Qaeda. It used it against the Russians in Afghanistan, bin Laden, and funded by the Saudi Arabians. They used it against Gaddafi, who was also a secular Arab government in Libya. They're using it in Syria now to make trouble, to wreck, to destroy. So the al-Qaeda people in Syria have said, when we take over, we're going to kill all the Alawites. That's the small, very unusual Muslim sect that is most of the governing people in Syria. We're going to drive out all the Christians. It's already happened in Iraq. These are countries that have had Christian communities from the time of the apostles, and they're being destroyed and driven out. And then they said, so they're going to just have an Islamic state. So
and they think we're so dumb. Exactly,
wants trouble.
Well, yeah, I mean, they think we're so dumb. They want to grope my wife and children to fly while they publicly run al-Qaeda. And it turns out the bombers were watched for 5 years, the supposed convicted bombers already, who they said confessed the one when he's in the hospital with no proof, overthrowing the 6th Amendment. I mean, Lou, it's crazy that they're saying give your rights up because of al-Qaeda, while our government, I've said Obama is the global head of al-Qaeda right now.
Well, they find, unfortunately, American people will buy the most unbelievably stupid and low-level propaganda. I mean, all the arguments they're making against Iran, which are all lies, are exactly the same thing they said against Iraq. They just changed the word Iraq to Iran. And, apparently most people believe it. However, even though they're not being directly taxed for these wars, which would be the normal cause of war weariness, because, of course, everything's being printed up at the Fed. Still, I think more and more Americans are tired of the wars. They'd like to get out of Afghanistan, and they don't want to go into Iran. So the more that we can stoke these feelings, the more that we can promote the cause of peace, and Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity is going to be a big factor in this. The more we can promote the cause of peace, the more trouble they're going to have. The more trouble they're going to have with, Syria. Maybe poor Syria is gone, but with Iran and with other countries they'd like to target. So we have to promote the cause of peace.
Sure. I mean, what about resisting in a peaceful way, civil disobedience? I mean, I think it's time to go into the airports with big printouts admitting that our government runs al-Qaeda and saying, how dare them want to grope us and violate our rights? It's an act of domination. They're flipping the al-Qaeda script onto libertarians now, saying we're the threat. How dare you, the government that runs al-Qaeda, then say you want to grope me looking for al-Qaeda when you have the history of running these groups? I mean, that's what I'm getting at here, is I want to call them on their hoax, call them on their baloney.
Well, I certainly believe in the principle of civil disobedience. We all have that right. I wouldn't actually tell anybody to do it because, of course, you take a chance of going to jail. And the jails are, the U.S., as I pointed out earlier, is the capital of jailery in the entire planet. And these are vicious cages that they put human beings in. So I would never tell anybody to do that because of what the consequences are. But I certainly would support anybody taking their own rights into their hand and practicing civil disobedience. We have that right.
I hear you. By the way, Adam Kokesh, frequent guest of this show. It's on WorldNetDaily.com, linked up on DrudgeReport.com. Guys, blurb WorldNet Daily. Get it posted on Infowars.com. He's doing what everybody's always asked me to do. He says he's going to lead an armed march on D.C. July 4th. And I'm going to tell you why I've always been against that when we come back. Stay with us. All right, CNS News is reporting radio host to lead armed march on D.C. July 4th to put government on notice that we won't be intimidated. Now, I know Adam Kokesh. I think he's overall a good guy. But, he does stunts like, smoking pot on the air and stuff, which I get that's his right to do it. But it just kind of turns into party time. And I'm not criticizing him. He's been mildly critical of me in the past. I really could care less. But I'm going to call him. I'm going to try to get him on next hour. Or if anybody can get a hold of him, we've just got his cell phone number and Skype. Tell Adam I want to get him to pop in. I have been asked to do this over and over and over again in my 18 years on air. And there were people that did this back in the mid-'90s, claimed they would, and it turned out it was basically a Fed running it, and it was a way to try to radicalize. I don't think Adam's doing that. It's a libertarian deal to open carry. And now that I've had a chance to read the article, they plan to march from from the Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia to the bridge, and then when the feds stop them, if they stop them, then they'll turn back. So, I mean, I guess it's a publicity stunt for the Second Amendment to point out that you can't have guns in the Capitol. So I guess, I mean, my point is I've never done it because this is the type of time that they would provocateur and send in somebody to stage something and then blame us. If you're aware of that and have cameras showing that, it could backfire on the globalist. It's just I haven't ever done this, even though, sure, it put my name all over TV, bigger than Piers Morgan, bigger than, you know, all the rest of it. But I personally just have a bad feeling about it. Lou Rockwell, what is your feeling about this?
Oh, I think it's a very bad idea. First of all, I just think that violence or the threat of violence, that's the government. That's not us. We're the people of peace. Yes, we have the right to self-defense, but not the right to offense. So I think also this is going to be the 4th of July. There are going to be a lot of civilians around there, as they might call them, who potentially collateral damage if there's any shooting. Quote-unquote collateral damage, we would call that manslaughter or murder. So I think this is a very bad idea. I don't, you know, it must have made the FBI's day to see this happen. I mean, this is, I think and hope, however, nobody will be stupid enough to do it because they're just playing into the government's hands, playing into the media's hands. And by the way, this is not a libertarian thing. This is, you know, conservatives could be in back of it. Anybody who's interested in the, you know, in the sort of things that Adam is interested in. It's not necessary. I want to reject the libertarian label for this. It's a very bad idea, but I really think it'll never happen. I think we've seen the extent of it. Why would somebody join in this? You know, if we think of, you know, the worst jails in the country outside of Guantanamo are in the D.C. area. You know, folks, you don't want to let them put you in one of those jails. I mean, it's a horrific experience. It can change your life for the worse. And we shouldn't be taking, you know, you don't take up, it's just a very, very bad idea. And I hope to goodness it never comes off. And my guess is it will never come off. And as you say, it gets a lot of publicity. Of course, Drudge put it up. It's now all over the world and being described as a libertarian effort. This is not a libertarian effort. This is something else. And I think we ought not to support it, join in it, or approve of it in any way.
Well, Lou, I mean, I've got to say this. I think when people like go to state capitals with guns or when I storm the Capitol without guns, it shows we're in power. They called it storming it. We just didn't ask permission to go have a protest. I don't get permits because it's turning a right.
That's another thing, but you're not bringing, you know, 1,000 people with rifles to the state capitol.
No, listen, I absolutely. I totally hear what you're saying. I hear that you're saying they can manipulate it. What I'm saying is I understand the libertarian right and the open carry movement is something that shows people that guns aren't illegal. A right not exercised is a right that's lost. I'm going to do 5 more minutes with you on Ron Paul. I just talked to Adam Kokesh while you were talking. I got him on the phone. He's coming up at the 5 after break next hour here on air. This is breaking, and so we'll have that video for everybody, and we'll have a video report that can be embedded at drudgereport.com. But we'll have that up at Infowars.com, live streaming with Adam Kokesh coming up. After Lou Rockwell leaves us and Adam Kokesh leaves us, we're connected to him on Skype right now. I'll have time to play Ron Paul from Chile, basically, you know, talking about how this could be the collapse of society and how government is basically destroying our society. Similar things were also said by the leader of UKIP, Nigel Farage, but Ron Paul and Jim Rogers on government, quote, they'll use force and they'll use intimidation. And you know, I think the good news here is whether it's Lou Rockwell, Alex Jones, Ron Paul, Nigel Farage, Rogers, people that are into liberty, worldwide this is popular. And it's very, very exciting that liberty is rising while tyranny is becoming so unpopular. And I think that's why, Lou Rockwell, in closing, I want to get your take on this, why we see them saying, of course the state did everything. Of course the state owns your kids. Of course the state made the sun come up this morning. I think they're trying to hide their behavior in plain view as some desperate attempt at normalcy bias. Do you think that's working?
No, it's not working. And again, I think Ron Paul is the key reason he's got a worldwide movement, not only among young people and us older people in this country too, but all over the world. And he's doing, you know, all the usual suspects said, oh, well, he's retired. Thank goodness now he's gone. Forget him. But of course, he's stepped up everything he's doing in the what he believes in, that is fighting against the Federal Reserve, fighting against big government, fighting for our liberties, fighting for the cause of peace and against war. His new Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity, his podcasts, many speeches. He is so in demand on college campuses all over this country. 2 and 3 times a week, he's speaking at college campuses. It doesn't get publicity, but he's influencing young people. And he's got even more exciting plans that haven't been announced yet that are going to be a worldwide bombshell for goodness. So Ron Paul, keep doing it. And those who are interested in Ron and all the others, Alex and everybody else who's part of this liberty movement, we are on the march. The other side is sick. It's sick in every sense. It's decaying. And I don't believe they have the stamina to stick with it. We have the young on our side. Have hope. Learn about what's going on.
Sure.
And be a moral warrior for peace and freedom. And
all right.
Don't march on Washington with a gun.
Well, listen. We're going to have Adam Kokesh up next. So what do you want, because I will pose the question or statement to him. What do you want to say to Adam Kokesh about his plan for an armed march on Washington?
Well, Adam's, a very smart guy. He's an interesting guy. But I would say have a peaceful march. If he wants to gather people on the 4th of July to talk about gun rights or whatever, more power to him. But to sort of give the FBI and the CIA and all of the Department of Homeland Security and the rest of these evil agencies a present on the 4th of July, I think is not a good idea.
And again, why do you think it's a bad idea? Because there are a lot of open carry rallies out there that have reestablished the Second Amendment, and I agree with that. But I also just have your concern, not about Kokesh.
Well, you got to stay away from Mordor. Washington D.C. is the locus of evil. It's not like a regular city. There's some very bad people there. Stay away from Washington, D.C. If you want to do it elsewhere in the country, where we have open carry rights and so forth, well, okay, fine, do it. And these are, peaceful, and nobody's looking to shoot the state legislators or whatever. But you know what they will say in Washington. They'll say this is, aimed at overthrowing the government, and these people are, potentially guilty of treason. They'll all be arrested. They'll be brutalized. And the media will use this to say, look, all those libertarians, they want to shoot the government. So that is what's going to happen, even though we don't want to shoot the government.
All right.
We do know that is the government's weapon. The government shoots us, but we use the weapons of peace and of intelligence and of knowledge against them.
All right, Lou Rockwell, thank you for joining us. LouRockwell.com. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com. Adam Kokesh, straight ahead. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Central, we are here live. Back weeknights, 7 o'clock Central with Infowars Nightly News. Find listings and streams and downloads at prisonplanet.tv. Now, joining us from Virginia is Adam Kokesh. He is an American activist and talk radio host. AdamVersusTheMan.com is his news website. And I saw up on DrudgeReport.com about an hour ago, and we'll punch that up on screen, the headline, radio host who lead armed march on D.C. July 4th to put government on notice that we won't be intimidated, and that is CNS News. Now, they plan to march from Virginia to the bridge, and here to give us specific details first, here on the Alex Jones Show, is Adam Kokesh. Again, a longtime guest of this broadcast. I can count him as a friend. And he's done a lot of other big political events. They say there's no free speech allowed in D.C. I've had him tell me no cameras allowed even on the mall. Adam's gone out famously and danced at a monument and been arrested for that. Slammed to the ground, brutalized. I got to say this. He is a Marine Corps veteran of Iraq and Fallujah, and he has a lot of courage. I have never done this. People have asked me to do this many times. I've never done it because I'm concerned they'll send in provocateurs and stage something to demonize gun owners. I believe in open carry. I believe we have the right to do it. Doing it around the nation has really shown that there is a right to keep and bear arms. A lot of people don't even think there is a Second Amendment. But I got to tell you, Adam, I'm worried about you. I'll probably come or send a reporter to this. You've got serious, serious guts to do this. because I know what the establishment's capable of, and I also know you always do what you say you're going to do. So, Adam Kokesh, tell us what's happening and tell us what you're planning.
Alex, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you so much for being supportive of this. I know it's an issue that's very near and dear to you and so many of your audience, and it's very important that we stand up. And I think this is the time. People have gotten to the end of their ropes, and they're saying, this is it. We're going to put it on the line. We're going to see what happens. And if anything, this event is quite subtle, really the subtlest way possible that we could assert our right to be armed as human beings. And this really goes to the heart of the gun control issue. Is it about guns or is it about control? And what we're going to be doing is gathering at the National Cemetery on Independence Day in the morning and mustering into a formation. We hope to make sure that this is done in the safest and most visible and obvious way possible. And if I have to personally inspect every single individual carrying in that formation to ensure that that's what it is, that's what's going to happen. We will only invite individuals, at least who are not law enforcement officers, to be there with only a rifle or a shotgun slung across their back where their hands are not anywhere near it, and it can be made completely clear that they are coming in peace while asserting their right to be armed. We are going to march across the bridge, the Memorial Bridge, into the District of Columbia, where open carry is not permitted, march down Independence Avenue, around the Capitol, around the Supreme Court, and then up Pennsylvania Avenue, around the White House, back down to Constitution Avenue, and back peacefully to Virginia. What I'm going to be doing is coordinating with law enforcement. My recommendation to them is that they give us an escort, and they allow us to conduct our march peacefully in an orderly manner and make it clear why we are there. However, should they decide to say that we will not be welcome in the District of Criminals, Mortar on the Potomac, we will make it clear to the country and to the world that free people are not welcome in the capital of what is supposed to be the freest nation on earth, which we know to not be true now for many, many years, and yet so many Americans seem to labor under this illusion. And just recently, speaking in Mexico, incidentally, President Obama said, I think many of you know that in America, our Constitution guarantees our individual right to bear arms. And as president, I swore an oath to uphold that right, and I always will. Well, we're going to find out on Independence Day 2013 whether President Obama and the law enforcement officers that enforce his will in the District of Columbia are oath keepers or oath breakers, and whether they're actually going to stand up for the Constitution and the Second Amendment to which they swore an oath. Should there be any meeting of physical resistance, I have declared that, at least for myself, and I will ask everybody who is attending as a free individual to follow the same principles, that if we are going to be confronted physically, we are not going to physically challenge anyone. We are not going to cause any harm. We are going to conduct a peaceful event. And should we be confronted by law enforcement, even to the point of meeting physical resistance, if they do not create an immediate threat to life and limb, we will submit to the physical will of the government as it represents what it does today, and hope that we can reach out to those behind it. We can reach out to those who think that they should be able to affect the actions of others through the coercion of government rather than the persuasion that we as libertarians hold superior. And we are going to find out where this country stands come this Independence Day.
Now, Adam, what about the concern that I raised that the media is going to try to spin this, that it's an armed revolt against Mordor on the Potomac, or kind of like the North Korean capital where only the government can be armed? I understand, you're doing this to exercise the fact that we do have a Second Amendment, and that the Supreme Court's even ruled that they can't keep people from owning guns in D.C., but still the district has not complied with the Supreme Court. So I understand historically you're in the right, but what about Lou Rockwell, the Von Mises Institute, libertarian icon, we all know him well, who was on earlier? He thinks this is a very bad idea. I get why you're doing it. I know you're a good guy. I support you yourself. I just know that this is like a present to a lot of provocateurs. How do you stop them from sending in a mentally ill person or somebody they've set up to try to demonize the entire Second Amendment movement? I mean, obviously, justice be done, may the heavens fall, but that's not your problem, that's not my problem, but you've obviously thought that through.
Alex, this is an armed revolt against the American government. Make no mistake about it. That does not change the nature of the event, and that does not change the fact that every criticism leveled against what we are planning to do would be true of any act of resistance, of any open protest, of any act of rebellion. And to say, well, there are potential negative consequences as an excuse to cower before government, does not strike me as something that would be said by someone who cares about risking what they hold dear to achieve what we hold most dear, and that is the liberty that is supposed to be a core value of this nation. And it's really disgusting to see that there are those who would use the exact same tactics that they are saying are potentials in order to derail this effort. That, oh, somebody might say something bad about this, so we're going to say something bad about it now. And I heard the criticism from the esteemed Mr. Rockwell suggesting that we have a peaceful event. We are having a peaceful event, and that, you know, we should. She's saying that.
No, I get what you're saying. Let me stop you. You're saying, as a libertarian principle, it's whoever initiates the violence first. I get it. It's like Lexington and Concord. You know, hold your fire. Don't shoot unless shot at. But, you know, stand your ground. If they mean to have a war, let them have it. And then you say this is an armed revolt. I say the government's illegitimate. It's violating our rights. But, I mean, why are you calling it a armed revolt? Because that idea in law has the connotation of you're going to be revolting with arms. I mean, I don't think having arms with you is the definition of revolting with arms. I think it signifies you're saying you were exercising the right to be armed.
Well, you could split the terms there. I believe we are revolting with arms. And as you, I know personally, you are armed and you believe in this. And I would say that you are in revolt as well. And we saw the report just last week of the survey that 29% of Americans believe an armed revolt will be necessary for a revolution in the next few years. Well, for those Americans who see that it is potentially necessary, I have some news for you. It's already happening. It's already begun. And if you think that we are not in the midst of a revolution, I would ask you to simply look around and look just ever so slightly past the mainstream media narrative to question what's really going on and see that there are people in this country who are facing violence at the hands of government. There are people worse all over the world, all over the planet.
No, I agree. Government run by special interests is the problem. But, I mean, what you're saying here is right in the historical context. I think Lou Rockwell is concerned because undoubtedly this will probably not end well. I admire everybody that's going to be there. This is something, obviously, that I'm not going to probably be able to miss. I'm going to probably need to come to this. I mean, it's just duty, states that that's what has to be done to cover it. As a media person, my issue is that they undoubtedly don't have a choice. They're going to try to spin this against you. You know, people at first said I was wrong to blow up at Piers Morgan and say, look, 1776 will commence again. But within the days that came after it, people realized, no, it was a victory and that it was a defining moment in the defeat of the gun grabbers. Many analysts have said this because it called them out. Hey, you're illegitimate. You don't have a right to take our guns. You want to enslave us. And if you try, it's going to cause a civil war. That throwing down the gauntlet ended their creeping fascism. I'm just saying that if a couple thousand people show up and this actually happens, this is going to be historical. What else do you want to add on this whole front, Adam Kokesh?
Well, I want to make it clear that we are doing everything possible to ensure that this event stays nonviolent. We are going to be coordinating with law enforcement, and should they not give us a concrete answer as to what their actions are going to be, and I have to be the first one to cross that bridge by myself, then that's what I'm going to do. And I think enough people know from my past that I have the credibility to do what I'm going to say, as you attest, and I'm greatly appreciative of your endorsement in that, Mr. Jones. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you there on Independence Day, not just as a reporter, but as a participant, as I know you will be in one form or another. And also, I'd like people to know that we are inviting everyone who would like to come, who would not like to risk arrest, who would not like to be armed, to join us as well. If there are any supporters who would like to come unarmed, you'll be welcome to fall in at the back of the formation should you choose, although we might, it seems now, have far too many who are actually carrying and restrict the formation just to that. But this is going to be an historic event. This is the showdown of 2013. We are going to put it on the line, and we're going to see if Obama's going to live up to his words or not. I can think of no better way than doing this. And it's just, there are those who are willing to cower, who will say that there's no time for confrontation. And there are those of us who will say, no, I am going to stand up. I am going to assert my rights. I'm going to make it absolutely clear what I am doing, but I will not cower in the darkness. I will not let government tell me what to do. And yes, we are going with the aim of overthrowing the government. It has become obsolete. It is an anachronism in 2013 that we still believe as human beings that we should be organizing society by coercion and violence and force of a central authority rather than as free, beautiful, independent human beings who are capable of getting along by persuasion rather than coercion. And what we are doing is marking the high watermark of government on Independence Day 2013. And this is it. This is the beginning of the end for government, for this idea that this is how society should be organized, that this monopoly on violence, that this destructive Leviathan has any right to exist among free, enlightened people. And in this day and age, when we have the tools, we have the information, we are able to see past the propaganda, to sit back and endorse this system, to cower, to say that the status quo is somehow acceptable, seems antithetical to every principle of liberty that I have ever stood for.
Well, Adam, I've never seen you this focused or on fire. You definitely know you've crossed the Rubicon now. Historically, looking at this is the stuff that history is made of, what you're doing right now. For me to get up here on air and declare that a second American Revolution was needed last year, a intellectual revolution at the state level, but if the feds try to block it, then we have a right to defend ourselves. This is the stuff of Lexington and Concord. We're beginning to enter the edge of that zone, but I've got to ask you to quantify this specifically so the corporatist, globalist press, the collaborator press, the occupation press, the sympathizer press does not take out of context what you're saying. I want you to quantify for everyone out there what you mean by this is an armed revolt and we mean to overthrow the government. Let me stop you. Do you mean overthrow the idea with civil disobedience and break the will of the corrupt establishment that they have a monopoly of force peacefully? Because when you use the terms armed revolt, when you use the terms overthrow the government, I would say checkmate the illegitimate occupiers that outside of law are saying we don't have a Second Amendment when the Supreme Court's already ruled D.C. is in violation and people have a right to carry guns there. Is that what you're saying?
Alex, already it is checkmate for government. It is game over. We have put them in a lose-lose situation. There's nothing they can do to rescue themselves from the situation when enough of their victims have realized that government is a racket. What I am suggesting the revolution really consists of is the withdrawing of our material support for government. That is a tax revolt. That is open resistance and rebellion when the government tries to force its will upon you. That means that we stand up to unjust authority in whatever way that we see fit. When it comes to violence, it is always an inferior solution to peaceful means of resisting. And we hope that we can accomplish this entire revolution peacefully, that we can evolve past this phase of human society where we thought that government was necessary. But should it be necessary, we have to make it clear and put government on notice that we will use physical force when necessary and when appropriate to defend ourselves. I'm very glad that we haven't come quite to that situation yet, but the government's reaction to what we do on Independence Day may yet prove that to be necessary. I hope they are not going to put us in that kind of situation where violent resistance is appropriate. I would rather have the officers that we will be facing decide that they are going to honor their oaths, that they are going to stand down, that they would rather be with the people than with the government. And as you said, it's already illegitimate. All we're doing is proving that and demonstrating that. And when we are able to march through that city armed, we will show that the government fears the people, not the other way around, and liberty will be restored.
We have breaking news at Infowars.com. U.S. Senator says Big Sis is buying up ammo to dry up supply. Inhofe, I believe it's intentional. Well, yes, they've now... our story that's been up on Drudge over the weekend is now confirming that they're going out to all the big manufacturers and asking if they can buy millions of bullets within just a few weeks' notice from them. And we have the video of Inhofe up there on the site breaking all of that down. So I'll just tell the crew to get that audio. So coming up in the next segment, we can point out what Senator Inhofe is covering and saying. Let me say this, Adam, and then let you make any other points you want to make. I admire courage instinctively. I mean, who doesn't? And again, obviously, I've been asked, let's be conservative, 500 times or more in 18 years on air to have the armed march on Washington, to go exercise our Second Amendment and to show them who's boss. We see the government buying billions of rounds of ammo, 7,000 plus anti-mine tanks. They're dug in. They know they're committing crimes. They know that their time is short. So I understand that they're in the wrong and literally an alien, foreign, private Federal Reserve operation. But when we're starting to get such big inroads in the info war, I always say to people that want to get an armed war going that I don't see that going well in the midterm or the short term. And I would like to try to have a velvet revolution, as I think you would like. So what do you say on that front?
Power seeds nothing without demand, and as Thomas Sowell said, it's amazing how much panic one honest man can spread among a multitude of hypocrites. I think that's what this is exposing. I think simply changing the conversation here, putting the government in a lose-lose situation, is a huge victory for liberty. And we are going to do whatever it takes to ensure that this event is safe and peaceful, unless the government decides that it's not going to be. And if it turns out that all we end up with is a rally on the Virginia side of the river, we will have at least shown that free people are not welcome in the nation's capital, and hopefully put the government on notice that there are increasing numbers of people who are realizing this, who are waking up, who are tuning into alternative media like yourself, like Adam versus the Man, who are realizing that the government doesn't have their best interests at heart. And that alone is a huge victory. So I think anything that we can do in this fight, anything that we can do to move humanity forward, to get the ball rolling, I think we are coming to an important turning point historically, as you compared what we are seeing here with this event to the events of the American Revolution. I'm quite flattered to hope that to think that there are people who are recognizing the significance of what we're doing. But even beyond the destiny of the United States of America, we are talking about our destiny as a species. And I can't imagine that we are going to evolve to this point and then see that we are going to keep this government thing going and we are not going to get past this. So as part of that process, I'm just honored to be in a position where I get to do something about it. I'm really honored to have your support in this. And it is incredible to see the outpouring of support that we've had online for this. And it looks like we are going to have more than enough of the numbers that we want to have a critical mass to make this a success.
Now, Adam, expanding on that, I get historically you have the right to do this, and I want to punch up the Declaration of Independence for TV viewers, that it's our right, it's our duty, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, we're under a design of despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their forms and their former systems of government. And it just goes into the tyranny of the King of England. And we now are under banker rule, where $85 billion a month is given to foreign banks and Warren Buffett. We are now under a kleptocracy of lawlessness. My only issue is that I think when I first heard about this about 45 minutes ago on air, I was like, Adam's a good guy, but I have a bad feeling. But I think it's the same bad feeling of the big bullies waiting for you at the end of school. But once the fight starts, you feel good going home that you stood up to him, even if you got your nose bloodied. You know, he got the same thing. I just don't want a physical war to start, because I see us incrementally starting to win the hearts and minds. So I hope that this doesn't go bad or something, doesn't happen. But, that's the way it is. We need to trust in God, trust in providence, trust in the universe, bending towards justice. What will you say to those that will say Adam is a provocateur, Adam is a Fed, Adam, is only doing this for publicity, like a mercenary, because obviously that's already being said. What do you say to those people?
I'm a provocateur for liberty. And Alex, I have to tell you, when I was getting on that airplane to go to Fallujah in 2004 with the Marines, I felt, I think, a similar sensation to what you're describing. And if it wasn't for the great false bravado and conviction that I was imbued with by the propaganda that led me to that point, I would not have even been in that position in the first place.
Wait, hold that thought. Recap that when we come back. We've got AdamVersusTheMan.com, Adam Kokesh on with us. I'm Alex Jones. This is obviously massive news that is breaking right now in detail here at InfoWars. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, we're here. The news websites are prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. The TV streaming site is prisonplanet.tv. Adam Kokesh is with us for the rest of this segment. I'm going to let him go here in about 10 minutes. He's got to get ready for his own show in a couple hours. AdamVersusTheMan.com is his website. And he, of course, has been a prominent libertarian activist in the last 6-7 years and has run for Congress, amongst other things, and has also done a lot of media events that have drawn a lot of attention to tyranny. But I have to tell you that what he is setting out on now will probably have the establishment try to intimidate everybody and come down on everybody, which will actually backfire against them. I had some of the crew, Adam, saying, are you guys going to have ammo in your guns?
Yes.
So you're going to be locked and loaded?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'll
we are asserting the right to be armed and to apply deadly force. And it's really one of the most overlooked points in all of the debates about gun control, which is that we are only alive as human beings because our fellow human beings want us to be alive. Human life is so very, very fragile and so easy to snuff out. The idea that somehow that's going to be changed by a law or an edict from Washington is absurd. And to think that you've heard this point before, that, well, if you take away the guns, the people that really want to kill other people will find another way, and it's absolutely true. But we are asserting this particular right as laid out in the Constitution, and I think it's really sad to think that everybody goes, oh my gosh, they're going to have guns at this event, therefore there's going to be violence. Well, as we've seen from Kent State, which gets raised fairly frequently in the conversation around this right now, it doesn't matter if you're armed or unarmed facing government. If they feel like shooting you, they are going to shoot you. And we are going to do what we always do and ensure that we are not giving them any excuse. But if anything, I feel safer being surrounded by fellow armed patriots and Americans who believe that there is value in fighting for at least the principles this country was founded on, and if only through our collective victimhood at the hands of the American government believe that there is something worth fighting for in this country, than to be unarmed facing down the same police force.
Well, look, this is civil rights at its core, just like black folks going in and sitting at lunch counters saying, I'm not going to get the food out the window anymore, I'm a human, or going in the bathroom, or sitting at the front of the bus. Back then, that was incredibly radical. Those people were demonized, but later the truth was self-evident. And the fact that it is the law you can be armed in a group in Virginia, they follow the Constitution. The fact that D.C., what the Heller decision's a couple years old, they still are in violation of it. The fact that you are in the right, and imagine how backwards it is that government can be armed, but it's saying you can't be, when the right of arrest is a citizen right, where we then, under state charter, create cities, and then we decide to hire police to be our servants via the citizen's right of arrest, to be professional citizens to do it as our servants. That's why they're called servants. Now they're authorities, officials. And I saw a poll out where 86% of police are totally pro-Second Amendment, and most cops I talk to at open carry rallies we've covered are love it, because they get it. A real criminal is going to have it hidden. They're not going to see the bullet coming. They get it. So the problem is, as you know, D.C. police are even worse than New York police, and I've been all over the country. They are so arrogant. They are so aggressive. They are so rude. I mean, you live there. You're around it all the time, that there is no telling what these monsters will do. And faced with real people, wow, I mean, I'm saying Katie bar the door. Get ready to be called by every media outlet out there since Drudge picked up your story. And let's say you've got 2 minutes on CNN, not a big audience, but they're legends in their own mind. It'll then get picked up on all the other channels. Sure. Together, the mainstream media is big. Let's say you are on 2 minutes, or you're in the room with Piers Morgan tomorrow night. In fact, I bet they call you there. You're in the room with the slimebag Piers Morgan, who only has 400,000 viewers now. It's dropped by about 200,000. He's a nobody. There's probably a 2 million listing right now. But still, by confronting him, it'll be put on Jay Leno, everywhere else, and then you will reach hundreds of millions when it airs everywhere worldwide. You've got 2 minutes with Piers Morgan. What do you say to him?
If freedom scares you so much, why don't you move to North Korea? Is that enough? I think that's really sad to see that in this country there are people who would rather change it to go to some vision that they want to impose through government. It's really disgusting that that's what this country has turned into, that our government has become not a mechanism of the will of the people, if it ever was, but a tool of the elites to control the rest of us. And they get it by being able to convince us that we need government, that the government is still the will of the people, that we all have some say. And if you believe that and you want to take the side of the government over the people, then by all means, please do. You'll be on the wrong side of the firing line when the shooting starts. But that's not what this event is all about. And when Piers Morgan wants to try to think that you know, this is how he can kiss up to his new overlords now that he's on the other side of the pond, he's wrong, because the power rests with the people. And Alex, just to what you said earlier about the law enforcement attitude, you're absolutely correct that they have found how to hire really some of the worst in the country when it comes to cities like New York and D.C. especially. But what we are going to be doing is finding out which ones are oath keepers and oath breakers, and that's really important. But there's another wrinkle to this story in the law enforcement reaction on the side of supporting this event. And from what we've seen in the comments from those who claim to be law enforcement, opinions are a little split. There are some who are made nervous by this. We haven't had anyone say, I'm a law enforcement officer, you should not do this. And I want to really point that out. I have not had a single law enforcement officer contact me as such and tell me that this should not happen. We've had a lot of support from law enforcement officers who are specially invited to attend armed however they see fit, and we have seen an incredible amount of support. We've had law enforcement officers say that it's a great idea. We've had law enforcement officers say they'll be joining us with arms, and we've had law enforcement officers say they'll be joining us entirely disarmed. So they are welcome in doing this, and this just goes to show that the people who are supposedly the servants of the people, but really we know the servants of the government, they are not just ready to fall in line. And this is really important for the peaceful revolution that we're working towards, Alex, is that we ensure the enforcement class of government knows what's really going on and knows what it means to stand with the people.
Well, my first knee-jerk reaction was Adam Kokesh is a good guy, but I have a bad feeling about this. But you got cut off by the break. Restart the story about Fallujah, because I want to air that on my nightly news tonight. I think that's very powerful. Start over, because I was talking about,
sure,
you know that feeling of the bully that's flunked 3 grades, weighs 80 pounds more than you and beats everybody up. He's waiting for you at the end of school. And I remember growing up, and I could have gone out the back of the school, but over and over again, something about it said, I'm going to go ahead and go out the front, and I'm going to find him. And then that bad feeling disappeared right when I stood up to him. So when I say bad feeling, I just hate giving the enemy the chance to spin things. But you know what? Fortune favors the bold, and there is a tide in the affairs of men when taken at the flood leads on to fortune. Julius Caesar. Our fortune is liberty, and we're men too, just like them. And we don't seek power, we don't seek tyranny, and it freaks them out when we actually begin to reverse things. So, man, I mean, my mind is all over the place on this, but my spirit likes it. But at the same time, you know, my gut is concerned about it. But whatever happens, happens. Tell the Fallujah story.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Alex. And I did share some of that feeling with you when the idea first leapt into my mind, and I asked my audience if they thought it was a good idea, and I received an overwhelmingly positive response. But it's similar to that feeling when you're getting on an airplane going to Fallujah, as I did in 2004 with the Marines. And despite all of the courage of my convictions imbued in me by the propaganda that led me to support the occupation of Iraq and what we were doing, what I was misled into thinking was cleaning up our mess somehow, which was actually participating in the deaths of 1.5 million Iraqis as a result of the American invasion and occupation there. And with all of that, I still had some of this feeling. And it's interesting now, in contrast, doing this. Not only do I feel much safer, but the courage of my convictions are so overwhelming compared to what I felt going into Fallujah, knowing that I'm doing the right thing, knowing that the people who are standing with me in this are doing the right thing. All of those negative feelings are cast aside when you've done your research, when you've done your homework, when you understand the dynamics, you understand what's at stake. I'm not particularly brave. It may be bold what I am doing here, but I feel that I've made a calculated decision, and I'm not particularly brave, Alex. I don't think that I have the depending on how you would define the word, I simply have the intelligence to think things through and understand the calculated risks that I'm taking.
Well, plus, I mean, you don't want to just, I mean, this is my feeling. Tell me if you concur. I don't want to just sit here as a spectator while classic tyranny takes over and is arming to the teeth against me, and in all the federal training manuals, clear treason, saying gun owners, returning veterans, libertarians, conservatives in the fetters, that we're the new terrorist. And Army manuals, let's put it on screen, that talk about re-education camps. They even use that term. I mean, really, the question is, why have we waited this long?
Yes, I have the answer, and that is exactly what I wanted to share with you in regards to your story about the bully. And I know there are a lot of people listening to this right now who are thinking the same thing. Oh my gosh, is this what I'm doing? I'm being turned loose by the authorities to the victim, to be a victim of a bully who's 80 pounds heavier than me? Am I going into a trap? And the answer is absolutely not. And you know this as well as anyone, Mr. Jones, that while the government may behave like a bully, it is a tiny speck of insignificance compared to the power of we the people. And if anything, we are the ones who are far favored to win this fight if you want to take a weigh-in and see who has more power, those of us who are going to be marching on Independence Day or those who are going to be trying to stop us.
Yeah, there was a big editorial came out. Guys, if you type this in, editorialist comes out and says, I saw it this morning, put NRA members in camps. And this is the type of garbage that we see going on. And I'm trying to find the article because I want to show people, you know, the image of the NRA as a giant ogre with a club and the government bowing down in fear. But that's actually true. We are a 2,000-pound ogre with huge spiked teeth and a huge club compared to a chicken neck nobody, except we're not an ogre. We are enlightened with liberty and freedom and decency, and they should be scared.
Well, Alex, after seeing the NRA's politicization, to put it kindly, I'm much more of a fan of gun owners of America. But you're absolutely correct. And if they did feel the need to put up a fence to keep all of us gun owners in, and it happened to take up the entire United States of America, except for the little part around D.C., and they had a big fence erected around the District of Criminals in order to keep the rest of us out, as long as they're keeping the government creeps and those who wish to control us in, I'd be more than happy with that.
Well, again, I mean, I am for open carry everywhere because a right non-exercise is lost. I just, at a certain level, need to tell people that there is a chance they could set something up, set off a bomb, blame it on us, you name it. I think people should just consciously know the dangers. But the danger is much greater to just sit here on our butt and not get on the offense.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. And that's the greatest thing, to be able to step back and put this in perspective. When the government wants you to think this is dangerous, this is a risk, what's the alternative? Sitting at home, letting them come to get you, letting the next Boston bombing occur, letting them continue to trample all over the rights and freedoms of the American people? That you think that's going to be safer by comparison than standing up? Because history would say otherwise.
Well, I want to say this to all the listeners, and we've chronicled it. That was another major syndicated column just in one paper we just showed earlier. We'll put it back on screen saying, put us in camps. And then I just showed on screen at Army.mil the resettlement plan where it says our Social Security numbers, how to process this, how to take our photos, how to break the families up. It's hundreds of pages that we broke down where the military is training, and that's why they're waking up, by the way, to put us in camps. How did the establishment think the military wouldn't turn against them? I ran into a lot of veterans this weekend when I was up in, or last week in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and they told me 30 to 40%, it's FM 3-39.40, internment resettlement camp operations, and it talks about re-education camps. It uses that Soviet term, and they said, listen, when I was in 2 years ago, 35% were in. Or when my buddy was in last year, 45% were in. I ran into people in uniform. They said, oh, everybody I know is awake. What are you seeing with all the veterans? I know there's a lot of veterans that work on your show, you know, recent Iraq veterans. What are, because, and then Homeland Security comes out and says, you're the terrorist now, returning veterans because they know you're awake. I think they've overplayed their hand, and then they're all over the news saying, we need to arrest Alex Jones. He's a crazy. And so they cuddle up and believe their own propaganda, and I think are showing their hand. We're not a bunch of poor Russian peasants, you know, that had already lived under slavery. And by the way, the communists could barely beat them. They fought hard. We're not a bunch of Germans that are just going to follow orders. I'm not knocking Germans. I mean, I hope the New World Order kids, they've bit off more than they can chew here.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We are going to turn the tide. And as you've seen from the growth of the organization Oath Keepers and from the evidence that you present here and from all of the feedback that I've got from members of the Adam versus the Man audience that are heavily leaning with or at least we have more than our fair share of active duty military personnel, veterans, and of law enforcement officers, because they're very concerned with these issues. And for the people that wake up from on the inside, it's very powerful to see that there's a whole other way of thinking on the outside. And this, I can only hope that in the greater picture, as I'm sure you're keen to see that this will have some historical significance, it may serve as a turning point for those within the system, those enforcements, those enforcers of government, the members of the enforcement class, for them to see that there is an alternative. There is a means to disobedience. There is a calling to the higher law of the Constitution, if not the higher law of natural rights, to respect our fellow human beings rather than to simply be obedient enforcers of the edicts of politicians. And if anything, I really truly hope that this event can serve as a catalyst for the revolution that is already occurring in the minds of so many enforcers.
Well, let's be clear. They can crush stuff that they stage and then claim they've defeated the Patriot movement. That's all a hoax. They can get Bostonites to come out with their hands up because they ran a media hoax, but that's one time. They're not, every time they get a chance, Boston, Katrina, they take the guns. The military, as you know, trains to take the guns. If 35, 40, 45% of active duty were awake years ago, the numbers I'm getting from Fort Hood, it's more like 60. What are you getting from the vets you know? I mean, how explosive is this?
Well, I think in the veteran community, people are much more keen to wake up because they have a little less at stake. You get out of the military, it's a little easier to see past the propaganda that you're surrounded by. So I think it's very important right now for veterans to be reaching out to any active duty troops they may know. We especially invite active duty soldiers and veterans to join us on this march as well on Independence Day. And I really think that there's an important bridge being,
Absolutely. No. This is the restoration of the Republic against the Marxist globalist revolutionaries. Adam Kokesh, you got a lot of guts, and guts is enough.
In the last 2 years alone, the U.S.
Yeah, the globalists are taking the gloves off, so are we. Again, I think Adam's a good guy. People need to know what they're getting into on this. It's your right to do this, but the globalists are criminals. And they're known to beat people up on video and then frame you for attacking them. And they've got juries so evil that a cop can shoot you in the head 5 times, hack you up with a hatchet, barbecue your flesh, and they'll call that an assault on him if he didn't like the flavor of your meat. And I'm not even hardly being satirical. How many times have you seen video of them beat somebody up and then charge you with resisting? I've seen cases where they say they hurt their fist punching you. So, you hit me, bam, break your nose. Syria, how dare Syria say it's not nice, we're bombing them. They're actually saying that on the news right now. And the jihadis are joining forces, hacking America. Oh, Al Gore's got $200 million in the bank. On and on and on while they rape us. The globalists are raping us. So I got to stew on this because I haven't personally done this because maybe the time wasn't right over the years. Plus, I saw a provocateur back in the mid-'90s do this, a famous lady who put out hoaxes about FEMA camps and stuff. I don't think he's a bad guy, Adam Kokesh. Adam Kokesh, I think, is for real. And they can spin this 1,000 different ways, but fortune favors the bold, and our fortune is liberty. Look at this Alexander Solzhenitsyn quote. I mean, people got mad at me yelling at Piers Morgan. I mean, Paul Revere was calling for killing redcoats. So I guess just America is radical. I mean, how can you say, hey, I'm an American, I'm hardcore, but then not say, well, Kokesh, that's a American idea. Here's our guns, we have a right, it's pure civil rights. And sure, the enemy can do all sorts of stuff. And I know Lou Rockwell's got a long view. I agree with both guys because there's multifacets to everything. We'll debate this more tomorrow and on the Nightly News tonight. I'll be hosting it live, 7 o'clock Central. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And how we burned in the camps later, thinking what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, they arrested about half the city and sent them to camps, Stalingrad, or it was Leningrad at the time, had been uncertain whether he would return alive and had to say goodbye to his family every time a security operative crept out. Or if during periods of mass arrest, as the example in Leningrad, when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, it was like a half later, people had not simply sat there in their lairs, pawing with terror at every bang on the doorstep, the downstairs door, and at every step on the staircase, but had understood they had nothing left to lose and had boldly set up in the downstairs hall an ambush of half a dozen people with axes, hammers, pokers, or whatever else was at hand. They didn't even have guns because the Soviets had first taken over and took the guns, and then decades later did all this. The organs would have very quickly have suffered a shortage of officers and transport, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt if we didn't love freedom enough, and even more, we had no awareness of the real situation. We were purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterwards. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Because they killed, the numbers vary, about half the people they took to the camp. They raped people's wives in front of them. Just the worst scum turned loose. And I'm telling you, in Obama's own Weatherman documents that came out in court, I've played the clips, they dream of breaking our families up and hurting our kids and our wives. That's who they are. I mean, these people are hardcore authoritarians. Look at the torture. Look at them funding al-Qaeda to kill Christians in Libya and Syria. They are the worst of the worst of the worst. And we are boldly resisting them. And if you don't support Infowars.com and the news shows, if you don't subscribe to PrisonPlanet.tv, if you don't spread the word about the broadcast, if you don't buy Infowars magazine in bulk, it's at cost, with 3 bumper stickers to put up in your area, like the French Resistance, and let them know that we're awake to them. Make your own stickers, put them up. I don't care. Just get out there, take action, resist. And again, support us. Go get the Pro Pure water filters. Visit the Seed Center, InfoWarsStore.com. Overdrive coming up, Infowars.com audio streams. Infowars.com/show. Find the video and audio streams. Infowars.com/show. We're going into overdrive, and I'm hosting the news live. All right, we got a lot of new breaking news up at Infowars.com. Radio host to lead armed march on D.C. July 4th to put government on notice. He said things like it's an armed revolt. He said things, I mean, he said a lot. We need to probably get the quotes out of that and add them to this article. He said, quote, this is an armed revolt. He said that this is a overthrow of the government, and he means politically by showing what they're doing, clearly using inflammatory language to get as much media attention as possible. But I don't know what to say. I mean, I support open carry, and I can only admire the courage. I've got some problems with it because I know what the enemy can do. But, you know, if you start letting what the enemy can do back to you control everything, I've just found charging in usually gets things done. At the same time, it is fraught with issues. So I would just tell people, I would not bring your children to this, to say the least. And I'll think about it more when the show ends today. Then I'm doing the nightly news. I'll think about it more. And tonight, 7 o'clock, hosting live. There's been some taped interviews they're doing, too. But I'm going to, more and more, we're doing Infowars Nightly News live, 7 o'clock Central. But here's some of the news up at Infowars.com. I've got a special report we're going to air that's got the Dan Bidandi interviews with people in Boston that were violated in the martial law lockdown, that ties in with a MSNBC host saying that Ron Paul's a liar about it being martial law. It was martial law by any stretch of the imagination, where everyone is a suspect, except government, who's the prime suspect. I mean, we're done. The government tortures kids in front of their parents in Iraq. We're done. It's an illegal government. It's criminals. Radio host to lead armed march on D.C. July 4th to put government on notice. 60 Minutes propaganda, counterinsurgency cops in Massachusetts. Yeah, they now have counterinsurgency cops on 60 Minutes, calling the citizens the insurgency. See, they're ready for it. They want it. I mean, this is a bad, bad government. U.S. Senator, big sis ammo buy to dry up supply. That's Senator Inhofe. Source, Israeli airstrike on Syria, coordinated with al-Qaeda militants. Unbelievable. This is like Twilight Zone. Internet sales tax, call Congress immediately. Megabanks, ATF, true culprits behind Mexican drug and gun violence. Obama urges grad students to reject warnings about government tyranny. And when that's all we see happening is massive tyranny. Alex Jones calls on world press to cover Bilderberg 2013. I haven't even gotten to this yet. They're always, you know, blocking people getting into countries to cover Bilderberg, because Bilderberg is basically so powerful. And they tried to stop me getting into Canada, but the media knew I was coming, so it blew up in their face. So then they were forced to release me. And I actually want to go. I'm buying the tickets. I'm coming. You know, why send crew when I can go myself? I mean, my wife's like, yeah, you got to go. And I go, okay. Everybody else says I got to go. But at the same time, I don't want to get on a plane and get there and be turned back. Or I don't want to get to the airport and right up there to get on the plane. They say no, like they've done Michael Savage and others. But if they do that, it'll only expose Bilderberg even more. And may actually break the media blockade here. So very important article with a lot of key photos and some of the past Bilderberg info. That's up on Infowars.com. So I hope that you will get that out to everybody and help us on that. And I hope to see everybody. People always want me to come and speak in England or speak in Europe. I'm afraid to set up a speaking engagement because they probably won't let me in. Because I'm so evil. You know, I talk about the Declaration of Independence, and you know in England that's bad. But the people there are hungry for liberty. It's pretty funny that a lot of my ancestors come from England, and I may not be able to even get in the country. All right. But anybody else can get in there. All right, I've decided I'm doing the whole hour live in transmission. Now I'm going to be live tonight, 7 o'clock. InfoWars Nightly News, PrisonPlanet.tv for listing, showtimes, streams, and more. But here's Tim Clemente, the FBI counterterrorism official, admitting, but like it's, you know, just, oh, we listened to all the phone calls. Well, this has already been admitted, but it just shows how illegal all this is. This is an illegitimate government. Here it is on CNN.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to the phone call between Catherine Russell and her husband, Tamerlan Tsarnaev. You said something very interesting on Aaron Burnett's show last night. You said that if Catherine Russell does not divulge the contents of this phone call, that the FBI had other methods finding out what was said. What did you mean by that?
Well, on the national security side of the house, in the federal government, you know, we have assets. There's lots of assets at our disposal throughout the intelligence community, and also not just domestically but overseas. Those assets allow us to gain information and intelligence on things that we can't use ordinarily in a criminal investigation, but are used for major terrorism investigations or counterintelligence investigations.
And you're not talking about a voicemail, right? What are you talking about exactly?
I'm talking about all digital communications there's a way to look at digital communications in the past. And I can't go into detail of how that's done or what's done, but I can tell you that no digital communication is secure. And so these communications will be found out. The conversation will be known.
It's all recorded.
It's just a question of whether or not Catherine Russell decides to
that's enough.
Own up to
everything is recorded since the mid-1990s with your tax money. And the people listening, like Sibel Edmonds, she hears them commanding al-Qaeda, running white slave rings, running weapons, just like they run al-Qaeda now. I'm going to explain to you. The people that run our government, that arrogant FBI guy all smiling, we have assets. Yeah, we know you got assets, pal. We know all about them. And now you have people without counsel say they did it while they're sedated and you cut their throat out. I mean, these guys are creepy, man. This is mafia that's broken this country's back. They get hundreds of billions every few years in no-bid contracts to spy on us. And they all go along with it. They all think it's funny. They go, trust us. Yeah, right. You've stolen the country blind. Now, I'm going to go to this next report, and we're going to go to break. We're going to come back and take your calls at 800-259-9231. What do you think about Adam Kokesh and an armed march? Will you be joining him? Do you have concerns like I do? 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. Specifically, on the Second American Revolution. Is it peaceful? What's going to happen? What do you think of what Kokesh said? I respect his guts. I agree with his right to do it, but is it a good idea? Because I could have done this anytime I wanted to, obviously. You've heard the callers over the years and had a big national story. But I know I'm so real, they might bust a cap in my butt and in the operation right there when I'm so effective beating them in the info war. I don't know. What do you think? 800-259-9231. That video, so that Drudge can add it, or whoever wants to, for other news sites. I talked to him, by the way. It's his first video interview or audio interview that we just did last hour. That's going up at YouTube in the next hour. Infowars.com will post it pronto. So, underlay, Arriba to Rob Do right now. He's about to upload it. But first, let's go to this report that John Bound and Dan Badandi put together, showing MSNBC saying Ron Paul's wrong. There was no martial law. Everybody loved what happened in Boston. So here is that report.
I'm David Knight with InfoWars Nightly News. Now, recently, Ron Paul was on the Alex Jones show, and he expressed concern about the way the police conducted themselves. He had some pretty strong language. He called it martial law, and we agree.
Governments are supposed to protect our liberties. Once they decide they're going to make us safe, economically and physically safe, they can only do this by taking away our liberties. Those pictures really concern me. That is such a visual image when you see thousands and thousands of troops, and they weren't your local friendly policemen that were involved. I mean, can you imagine all these people being locked? They became prisoners. It was accepted too easily. It was martial law.
But Lawrence O'Donnell took exception to that. And he very strongly called Ron Paul a liar repeatedly on his show for what he said about the way the police conducted themselves, going house to house, pointing guns at people in windows in houses, dragging them out of their houses at gunpoint, going down the streets in armored personnel carriers with full police riot gear.
Wait, I want to show pictures first, and then I want to show some of the pictures of the Boston police, okay? Look at this. I mean, if this is what you have, why don't you invade a country? Show some of the other ones. I mean, go up to Canada, take their oil. Look at these. These are half-tracks. I don't care what you might want to call it, an urban assault vehicle, but this country is becoming a police state, and it is very troubling to me.
We believe that's very excessive. We believe that that is setting a template for martial law to be gradually eased in, and so does Ron Paul. But Lawrence O'Donnell called him a liar. He said from the very beginning to say that this was forced is a lie, that the governor was just simply telling people to shelter in place, and it was a suggestion.
Police don't need warrants. Families thrown out of their homes at gunpoint to be searched without probable cause. No guns were pointed at any families. What a vile lie. There were no tanks, and there were no police pointing their weapons at innocent citizens.
Well, when the government points a gun at you and suggests that you do something, we call that force. And they may call it something else, but they're just playing with semantics. We wanted to add to the pictures that people have already seen, pictures that were already there when Lawrence O'Donnell called Ron Paul a liar. So we sent Dan Badandi to interview residents and tell us what they experienced during this excessive manhunt. And here are those interviews.
A cop pointed his gun at me, and then they called SWAT in, and then SWAT came and picked me up by a shield, and they threw me in the back of a car and then dropped me off in the middle of Newton.
They dropped you off in the middle of nowhere, and what time of night was that?
What time was that, like 5? Yeah, broad daylight. Just dropped me off, took me out of the cuffs, and told me to walk.
And when they put the cuffs on you, did they read you your Miranda rights?
Nope.
So you were unlawfully detained from being on public property?
Yeah.
Did they ask to search your house?
They told me they wouldn't search the house.
So they didn't ask you, they just told you?
They told me they weren't coming in to search.
And did they command you to leave your home?
They told us we had to leave, yes. One thing I was very, very upset about is that when we were leaving here, the lights were on in the house, TVs, you know, and back door, they had gone the back door down my basement, And they told me, I said, let me just close all my doors and lock up. And they said, no, they would do it. I came home. Back door was open. This is hours now later. Back door was open, front door was open, basement door was open. Lights were on, TVs were on. No one did anything.
So they basically left your house unsecured, but the doors wide open where nobody was home?
Yes, they did.
And you say there's bullet holes in your car here?
Yes, this is a bullet hole here.
Are they going to try that quick?
And there's a bullet hole here. It shot out the window on the side there. And in my car, there's a bullet hole, as you can see. I don't know where it is. Maybe it's in the car somewhere. I have no idea. But the back window's blown out and the side window's blown out. What they did, they disrupted this entire world for a day.
We initially got a report from the police department that it was voluntary searches, but then after talking to the residents, we found out that they weren't asking if they could have permission to enter homes. They were just forcefully entering people's homes to search.
So did they knock at your door, just walk in?
They knocked the door, but you know, I mean, the door, they almost pushed the door through them. I mean.
And did they ask you to search your home at all, or they just did it?
They just did it, you know, they just came in and they're going through.
And did they command you to leave your home?
Yes. We left, and they say, let's lock the doors. They say, no, we'll take care of it. We'll lock your doors and everything. We came home midnight, and everything was open. And nobody was around here.
So they left your house also unsecured and wide open?
Exactly. And nobody was around here. What takes anybody? Anybody can walk in.
They mistreated the elderly then, right?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes, you know, I didn't like that. You know, like I said, they tried to do the job, you know, I mean, no. But on this point here, I got very upset, very upset.
And, did they ask to search your house, or they just searched it?
They wanted to search the house, but my grandma said nobody was in there, and then they proceeded to ask my grandma for my uncle lives upstairs, and the house is a deadbolt, and my grandma said, there's no one up there. I didn't hear anyone go up the stairs, but they still made her give the house key and unlocked it with that key and searched upstairs and all the way up to the attic. Well, they didn't want to give the key back, but they ended up giving the key back. My grandma, they did.
And did they command you at all any time to leave your home or stay in the home?
So it was stay inside. But the thing overall that caught my eye is that my friend on Franklin Street lived across the street, and the Army people did a huge search in their garage. But the boat was directly across the street. They didn't search the boat, not once. They didn't even go around it.
And that's where the younger brother was found?
That's where the suspect was. And it's funny because the police didn't find him when they did the thing. The person finally got to leave their house because they said everyone stay inside. He left his house and saw the blood on the boat.
We, had to go through multiple checkpoints. We were searched ourselves. Other journalists on the scene were told to lay on the ground as they were searched. So it was a very, very touchy, very intense situation to be in.
Matter of fact, when we woke up, a big shootout that was done from over here and over. It was look like a Vietnam, so. Those guns that were going left and right.
Yeah, all your neighbors' houses got hit.
Oh, we did
Mine
too.
too.
We got a stone door broke.
They passed my stone door
The other doors are
and the door going upstairs.
There's a bullet there with a broken door.
If I ever put 4 more feet on this side, it would have get me in my bedroom.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice when you're sleeping, too. Were guns pointed at you any time, and did they tell you to put your hands up in the air or anything?
Not me, but my boyfriend.
So your boyfriend had his hands up in the air and they were searching him?
Yes, because he came out to check his diesel in the back of his truck.
They were pretty much right here in front of my house, and they were just shooting down that direction. That went on for a couple minutes, and then there were 2 more booms, with the last one just really lighting the entire neighborhood up. It shook the house, set off all the car alarms.
And did they make you put your hands up?
When we came out, we put our hands up and they searched us, but other than that, we just walked down.
And did they ask you at all to search you?
Yeah, they asked. They told us that they were going to be searching us.
And by the way, the police know what they did is illegal. And so they're saying, oh, everyone, let us do this. And that's the type of emails and text and things that I've been seeing people saying out there. In fact, here's one from YouTube today. Are you serious? They are looking for a terrorist. In fact, you guys can even give me a document cam shot of this. I'll show the viewers. Are you serious? They are looking for a terrorist. What and how should they handle this? Let's explain for the something billionth times to the billions of people the importance. People are not special. Get the F out of the way as professionals are trying to make things safe. You know this guy's a cop. They may not be nice teddy bears doing booty, but they are doing it. And then you go to the guy's channel. He's into superhero movies and cop movies, and he talks about how epic the new Superman is. Here's his channel, Will Cass. Or he's a contractor for government. I mean, I've seen this a million times. Man of Steel, emotionally epic. This is a child. Guaranteed, he goes to Iron Man, watches him fight terrorists, as they do every show, and really thinks that's real. That's a simulation for you, bud. The globalists have written books about it. They think you're stupid. Now, they've never done this in American policing or any other policing, locked down most of a city, and I saw them on the news going, everyone could be a suspect. They could have people aiding them. And a blonde-haired woman comes out of her house with her hands up. After she gets off the steps, she puts her hands down, and the cop goes and shoves her and goes, put them up! I mean, it is a bunch of nobodies on a power trip. Most police I know in cities will not act like that. Now, if you look like, I mean, it's like the cops in L.A. shooting up women in cars that weren't even the same car as Dorner. They're not out there facing real terrorists. The real thing they're facing is dangerous automobile wrecks and some criminals. And it's just this whole, we're soldiers, we're supermen, we're fighting this thing. And you notice in this guy's comment, and there's a lot of these, are you serious? They are looking for a terrorist. The guy's automatically a terrorist because USA Today said he is a terrorist this weekend. No judge, no jury. He's sedated. Who even knows if he's alive? And they're telling us, I mean, they could grab me and say, I confessed. What and how should they handle this? Let me explain for the 947234728. I mean, just, it's like a billion times to the billions of people, the importance. People are not special. Get the F out of the way as professionals are trying to make things safe. See, we're not special. He is. This person probably is a janitor. Nothing against being a janitor. It's very honest work, but a janitor at a police department. And goes in and has coffee. He's part of the team. You are not special. Government is special. Government is authority. Government is official. USA. USA. I got a 75 IQ. The Iron Man, he fights the terrorists. I was at Barton Springs yesterday, laying there drying off after I swam a mile. And it's not even a lot. I'm trying to swim 2 miles next time I go. I'm so out of shape. And I'm sitting there, and I just listen to all the adult men around me going, yeah, he's got the thruster power. That's how he deals with it. And their kids are talking about Iron Man. It's like, yeah, I like how he dealt with that one terrorist. Yeah, of course, the terrorist. That is what men do. I mean, I've sat there watching the Avengers, and the men will sit there in the theater before it's going on going, man, this means so much to me to get to see this. This is so, that's your manhood, a flying aircraft carrier? It ain't real. You and your family are being injected with soft kill, delayed kill, and binary bioweapons on record. Eco-science, White House Science Czar, read it. Bioweapons are being injected into you. You want to be a superhero? The New World Order's here right now. People are preparing for an armed march on D.C. That they are the terrorists. That Washington, D.C. is the good guys. Washington, D.C. might as well be the floating fortress of doom or the black pyramid orbiting the earth that the stinking aliens are in, for all that matters. I mean, it's worse because it's our own species, and it's hard to get people. But the White House was attacked, and Olympus has fallen, so that's why they can't have tours no more, because the terrorists might try something. The criminals have committed so many crimes in government that now the sky is the limit. They intend to go all the way. I love this. People are not special. Get the F out of the way as professionals are trying to make things safe.
They may not be nice teddy bears doing that, but they are doing it.
I mean, look at this.
People are not special. Get the F out of the way. So your wife comes out, blonde-haired lady. The cop shoved her. Says, keep hands up, bitch. That good. You're not special. Respect me. Respect me.
And we talk to the people. You'd have like a 17-year-old out in their yard, look nothing like the guy. They'd pull you up, strip you down, drive you around, throw you out in another city.
Hey, get out of the car. We the government, you not.
Never forget the video of the state police from their own squad car. 2001, Abby Martin, no, 2002. Navy veteran, no criminal record. A checkpoint. They're searching cars. She goes, were you looking for somebody? No, it's a routine check. Oh, it's routine, so it's okay. It's like, we're going to stick you in a blender. It's routine, so it's all right. She goes, well, you can't search my car. And they go, get out of the car, then. I mean, their voice was actually like, all right, get out of the car. I'm handcuffing you. And then they get in the back of the car and they find a pocket Constitution and they start going, look at this. I've never seen nothing like it. It's like the most unintentional comedy in the world. It'd be like if they found a daisy in a field and went, oh, it's so scary. What are we going to do? And they're going, I think we need to arrest her for this. I don't think this is legal. And the head one goes, I think it might be. That may have been what she's talking about, having rights. I mean, it's literally, you know what? I'm going to say this. Mike Judge sends me text saying, hey, good show today, good this and that. And then he's like, oh, come on, soon as a couple of weeks. Mike Judge, you need to come on, man, because Idiocracy that you made is exactly where we're already at. Of course, I don't call him that often. I just got to bug the hell out of him until he does it. Now, if I want to go listen to Weldon Henson play music and drink beer with Mike Judge, I guess I can get that done. But see, Mike, I admire you and want to get you on air. I don't want to go to a honky-tonk and drink beer with Weldon Henson, even though I love his country music. Then I got to drive home. I'm joking. I went out and saw Weldon a couple weeks ago. It's always good to see his wife, too. What a sweetie. Water is for toilets. Drink Brondo, the thirst mutilator. And President Macho Camacho. The Dominator Annihilator Monster Truck. Oh, God, help me. We're going to go to break and come back with your calls. I don't even know what to do anymore. I have entered the twilight zone. Because that's what I see, like, you little people need to get out of the way and let the professionals handle it. The professionals never locked down, 80% of a city, and it came up pointing guns at women and children, and then families are walking out there pointing it right at them, and you see the cops' eyes. They're all, like, on power trips and like, look all crazy. You see looks at cops going like, and it's like getting all into the pageantry and the media and their movie stars. I mean, it is mentally ill narcissism. And they'd come up to like AP reporters and say, we will kill you if you don't stop filming. Because, folks, they were given the word, this will bring everybody down. These guys have got to die. Got to kill the patsies. We shot into that boat with all those machine guns and he's not dead. Oh, my God, the media's on it. We can't kill him. I was listening to the scanner. Oh, my gosh, the media's on it. Abort, abort. Then all of a sudden the guy gets up. It's all right. Bring him into custody and cut his larynx out. He'll confess. He'll do what it takes. Get rid of the vocal cords. That's how we deal with zizits. All right. I'm going to go right to your phone calls, or I never will. Some of the news up on Infowars.com that we need to get out is Alex Jones calls on world press to cover Bilderberg 2013. Please get that out to everyone ASAP. We've got other big breaking news up at Infowars.com. And in the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to have the first 6-7 minutes of the Adam Kokesh world exclusive interview going up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, and we'll send it on. Not that I expect it to be posted. He already has a link to us today on the bullet story, but to the mighty DrudgeReport.com. The bane of the establishment, the bane of the New World Order, the high mountain fortress of DrudgeReport.com. U.S. Senator Big Sis Ammo buying ammo to dry up supply. Hey, will somebody run me my cell phone in here? I know they had it out there putting apps on it for me, but somebody run that into me, thanks. Right now, let's go to Sean in Canada. You're on the air. Sean, welcome to the airwaves, sir.
Hi, Alex. Nice to speak to you again.
Nice to speak to you, my friend.
I just wanted to call. It's my second time calling, recent Prison Planet TV member. I've shared that membership, and I woke up a friend of mine, an engineer, who had never seen World Trade Center 7 before and was floored when he saw the video. And so the message of liberty is percolating and spreading through Canada. And I just want to let you know that you're doing a great job. And I wanted to agree with what Adam Kokesh is doing. I think while you're right, it might be dangerous, and we're dealing with criminals in Washington. These people can spin whatever they want out of whole cloth, or they can piggyback on real events. Whatever they want to do, they're going to do it, and the time for action is now, if not a long time ago. So I agree with what he's doing. I wish him luck, and I hope nothing bad happens, but I commend him for his bravery, as you have. The other thing I want to say is Ashley Jessica. I'm a friend of hers. She was so central to the Opt-Out in Film campaign, and she is trying to raise money to go to Bilderberg and protest. And I just want to give a shout-out to her and encourage all of her supporters on Twitter and out there in cyberspace to donate to the cause to help that girl go fight the good fight.
Absolutely. And on top of that, everyone in England especially, we have a giant audience in Wales and in England and in Northern England and in Scotland and in Northern and Southern Ireland. And I just want to see everybody there at the Grove in northeast London. It's a suburb, northwest of London. And all the details are up on Infowars.com. Everybody needs to be there because they may be able to stop me getting in. Who knows? They haven't done that yet, but they're more authoritarian all the time. But we'll see what happens. We now have members of Parliament in the EU and in the UK that are listeners of the show and that support us. So we'll see what comes out of that. Thank you for the call, Sean. Frank in Louisiana, gun march. What's your take on it?
Yes, Alex, you know, the great two men of the ages, Thomas Jefferson and the indomitable George Washington, said that the Second Amendment Washington called liberty's teeth. And Thomas Jefferson said its main purpose was as a last resort against government tyranny. Now, the Supreme Court of U.S. versus Cruikshank stated that the Second Amendment has no other effect than to restrict the powers of the national government. That's the Supreme Court said that. And that's what we're doing here, is we're trying to restrict this tyrannical government who has a literal president who called himself a dictator when he violated the war clause, the most dangerous clause that only the Congress.
That's right. He said 3 times in letters and in speeches and had the Joint Chiefs tell Congress that I can launch wars under UN authority. It's worse than the president becoming a dictator and saying, I choose to do this like Santa Ana of Mexico. That's treason. But to say I am under a foreign power's direction is unprecedented. Frank, thanks for the call. Let's talk to Greg in Utah, listening on KYAH 540 AM. Greg, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Yeah, you know, I get a real sick feeling in my gut about this, Alex, and I'll tell you why. Because these guys easily plant a patsy in there, armed patsy, ready to turn the whole thing south real quick. And because of that, I just get a real sick feeling because I know that this is something that they'll take advantage of.
Yeah, no, I get the same feeling, but that's because of the danger. If we know what to watch for, if we know what to look for, even if they try it, we'll expose them. And again, Kokesh kept saying, I'm glad you agree with this. I'm glad you endorse this. That's not really what I said. I said, I'm warning people this could be very dangerous. You have the constitutional right to do this. I admire your courage. I don't think he's an agent or a bad guy. I was laying all those provisos in heavy. Okay, but there's a reason I haven't done this. My gut says you are having, I mean, look, people couldn't handle me getting in the redcoat's face and going, Morgan, you want our guns? Shut up. You're going to cause a second American Revolution. Even mainline conservatives freaked out on that. They're so weak. But then I think, well, maybe the answer is get so radical, because that's not radical. That's America. To like move the Overton window towards liberty. We've moved so far to collectivism and weakness and patheticness. And look, everything is 2014. Because if we don't get more Tea Party real Republicans elected that are being demonized by the Republican and Democratic leadership who've circled the wagons, they're going to get the Democrats, and Republicans may throw it and give them trifecta: House, Senate, and the presidency. And if they get that in, ladies and gentlemen, there's different trifectas. You could also have the courts as well. But if they get that, they're always like, we need a unified thing. No, unified is what causes disasters. One of the things that's made America great is competing criminal factions. The founders knew what they were doing. That's why I watched Killing You Softly, I think it's the name of the Brad Pitt movie. I watched that Friday night in a hotel room in Dallas coming back to Austin. And at the end of the movie, Brad Pitt says Thomas Jefferson was a piece of garbage. Thomas Jefferson was a filthy person who just wanted slaves. Thomas Jefferson tried to get slavery outlawed in the first Constitution. They were in that age. There was slavery going on all over the world. Most whites that came to this country were indentured servants and sharecroppers, one step above the regular slaves politically. In some cases, even worse off. And they go, he just wanted to have sex with his slave girls. Thomas Jefferson basically made the slaves his family, and then on his death, they were freed. And I'm not defending what Thomas Jefferson did. He grew up in that time. Thomas Jefferson then wrote the documents that were the idea that then fully realized led to more equality. And now they've taken equality and turned it back and made it a tyranny instead of a real equality. But I'm ranting. Anything else, Craig?
Yeah, one piece of news I just read, and I'm going to forward you the article, a lawmaker saying that President Obama never qualified to be president because of his not being a natural-born citizen status. He's this so-called first de facto president we've ever had. But I'm going to forward that article to you. I agree. I understand exactly what you said to him on your response. Yeah, you did. You were very clear about that, so I'm glad you made those points. Yeah, no,
I mean, I like Adam. He's a good guy, but, after that segment, I said, okay, bye, we'll talk to you soon. He goes, I like you, Alex. I don't agree with everything you stand for, but and I was like, dude, I don't need a qualifier. I mean, I don't agree with everything you do. It's fine. I mean, it's like there's all these personalities in media. I don't care. Okay, I care when they lie and say they're not buying bullets because they're a pack of criminals. The enemy is the globalists. The enemy is the private Federal Reserve. The enemy is Warren Buffett getting $150 billion or more. It's more like $300 billion, but if you go back, it's $44.5 billion in 2008, another 30-something billion the next year. Well, pull up, show people McClatchy. They say 150. That's like a 2-year-old article. I mean, the numbers I've got are $300 billion of my tax money. And then he's making record profits, ripping me off and my children's birthright. I mean, if you don't get upset about that, you're crazy. I'll be honest, I've had cars stolen twice. Now, there it is, Warren Buffett on AIG, $150 billion bailout. Ha, he told you so. He got 40-something billion just out of that. But the point is that I had my car stolen. I appreciate your call, Greg. I had my car stolen twice. Once in Dallas, and another time in Austin, and the police both times wouldn't even come out. And I was like, okay, I'll just, I got insurance, I'll get another one, but it was a big hassle. Imagine people that can't afford, the full coverage. People that, I had a lady I talked to who was at the baths, we went and took in Hot Springs, and I got a little massage, had to have one in about 5 months. Really helped a knot in my back. And she had all her guns stolen, everything she'd been saving up since she got out of the Air Force 10 years before. And, that's why stealing is really a big deal to people that don't have anything. And that's why in the old days you could execute somebody for stealing a horse. Because you took somebody's horse, they might die. And I really hate criminals that steal from poor people or lower middle class. I mean, I really, you steal some kid's bike when they're not going to be able to get another one. And then I think about the government stealing my kid's birthright. I get mad hearing about people having their kids' bikes stolen. I've had my bike stolen out of my garage multiple times. Leave it open 5 minutes, taking groceries in or something, they steal your bikes. I don't care if it's in Westlake or South Austin. I've had it happen both places. And that makes me mad. The violation. But then I think about how they put GMO that they know kills the animals that eat it over time. Organ failure, I mean, and then they brag and write books how they're doing it to us. And I have to look at them up there spying on us and getting my tax money to do it. And they're creepy and they're on power trips, man. And then I'm like, everybody's freaked out and scared of what Kokesh is doing. And my knee-jerk reaction was that as well. And I'm going to put warnings out. But I tell you, I feel like I should be there because it is dangerous. You know, this is the time to put everything on the line. This is the time to up the game. This is the time to commit. And you know, he was like, I hope you'll be there being armed. Like, oh, if you're not armed, Alex, you know, you don't have courage. I don't think he meant it like that, but, you know, like, hey, come on, go all the way. My issue is, most of the time I'm not armed. When people say, don't you have a concealed carry? Have never had time to go get it. I can carry guns if I want in Texas. Sometimes I do carry a rifle in my car. Not most of the time because my kids are in there. Not that they don't know not to touch it. It's just a lot of stuff goes on. I got a gun right here underneath the table. But when I go out to public rallies and things, I could have carried guns in Virginia at Bilderberg, and there were guys out there with holstered guns. Let me tell you, the police really got respect then. But it's almost not like I'm showing off that I'm not scared to be killed. I am not going to live in that type of fear. I mean, I don't want to die. I love life so much I'd never commit suicide. But if somebody does kill me, I hope they get me right between the eyes. I hope my whole brain gets blown out because I don't want to be paralyzed or something. That's the kind of stuff I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of dying. Man, this life is like 5 seconds long. I remember being 3 years old playing in the backyard and looking up into the sky and the sun and just feeling the presence of God. And now I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm getting older, and, you know, my shoulders hurt and everything else. I can't imagine what it's like to be 80 years old, incredible pain. I mean, I just know, like, I'm going to be 80. It's going to be like, bam, I'm 80, and then bam, I'm dead. I mean, you know what? You don't have power over me. I'm not afraid anymore. It's not like I even want to be there with a gun to say, look, I've got a gun. I want to be there without a gun so that if somebody strikes me down, it's that even more obvious. And I want to be able to document it as like an observer. I even wear a shirt saying observer. Because that's the real weapon. Those video cameras I'm going to have are the real weapon systems. I would be streaming live, just like when we were at Bilderberg this year in England. Those are the weapon systems. And Rockwell knows we're winning, and he sees the danger in where this is going, so he's against it. Plus, he's a big anti-violence guy. You know, that's all he talks about. He just, you know, he's real. But we'll see what happens. Because, you know, Kokesh is not doing that. He's doing it as a stunt for liberty. A provocateur of liberty, as he called himself. But, I mean, he'll do it. He'll do it. And I have always said it's not a good idea because they'll provocateur something. But, see, that was a long time ago. So, we'll see what happens. I personally don't want to be around the TSA. It's not that they scare me. It's that it's so stupid. They know who I am. The government runs Al-Qaeda. And I'm scared to blow up and get arrested because I don't want to be arrested because I don't like being around it and all the power tripping. The shallow people that just get off on exercising power for no reason over and over again. I'd like to exercise an oil paint brush to paint a masterpiece. I'd like to exercise open cave diving and spear a big old fish and go cook it on the side of the beach. I'd like to execute seeing a great sunset. I'd like to execute seeing your kids and my kids grow into a great future. Not sit there and just, I've got the power. I can make it do something. I mean, I'm so sick of it. All these nobodies who use the government as their power, and then Obama's up there talking about how great it is. Makes me want to throw up. William in Virginia, what's your take on all this?
Hello, Mr. Jones. I remember I called...
You're on a speakerphone, and I need you to get off of it or I'm going to have to let you go.
I'm not on speakerphone, sir.
I got to move on. So I got to be able to hear people. I mean, it's like, it's totally echoey and I can't hear you. Blake in Virginia, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex.
Yes, sir.
This is your PI videographer from Bilderberg last year.
Yes, I remember you gave us great video, brother. What do you think of all this?
I will be there with my 5 video cameras playing lifeguard to make sure that nothing bad happens. If you want to come, I will come to Austin and help Richard drive you up here. I'm going to be stopping in Austin here the next month or so to see you anyway.
Well, no, I'll fly up there. I mean, I'm going to go to Bilderberg, too. And again, we win either way. I hope I get in and cover it. But if England blocks me, then it's a new story and we win as well. I mean, it's like engaging is winning. Sitting back and doing nothing is losing. Go ahead.
Absolutely. But I'm at the point now I'm just about Popeye. I've had all I can stand and I can't stand no more. I see where Adam is going with this thing. I understand his take on it. But we need to have as many video cameras there as absolutely possible to cover every angle just to make sure that nothing bad happens.
No, I agree. We should have 10 video cameras for every gun. And believe me, that will intimidate the system a lot more than the guns.
I travel both ways, sir. My video camera is my primary.
No, I know. I've seen you. Anything else you want to add?
Remember I said, the mantra of the infantry, shoot, move, and communicate. We need to communicate so we don't have to move, so we never, ever have to shoot.
Absolutely. God bless. All right, I'm going to wrap up the live transmission here in about 6 minutes, and then I'll be back tonight live, 7 o'clock Central. We're going to do a live InfoWars Nightly News. We do that a lot of the time now. So that's always fun to do. So be sure and join us 7 o'clock tonight. If you haven't shared your PrisonPlanet.tv membership, your username, passcode, make sure it's unique to the site. You can also change it. You shouldn't have a passcode to the site that's the passcode to something else. That's just a little tip. But I'm not trying to lecture people. But then share your username, passcode with people today. Get them to tune in today. This is how we're going to wake folks up. I'm not risking my life and going 110% here to play games. We can beat these people with the truth. And, again, Adam Kokesh has every right to be doing what he's doing. It's committed. He's not going to back off now, so we need to make the best of it. I have chosen not to do what he's doing. You've heard over the years, it's the perennial or the perpetual call every week. We need an armed march on Washington, an armed march on Washington, an armed march on Washington, an armed march on Washington. And that did bring down Ceausescu in Romania. And the military decided not to shoot on him. It's kind of like the V for Vendetta recreates that. Everybody marches past the troops. The difference is the globalists are smart. They're not going to just let the troops mow people down. They would have one of their agents do it, shoot people like the Munich beer hall purge, where Hitler tried to march on the government. Not like he was a good guy, but that's an old tactic. And they just shot the group up from within, claimed it was the group doing it, and locked Hitler's butt up. But then British intelligence and others financed the Germans to let him out, making the leader. You didn't know that. You haven't read all the secret wartime reports that have been declassified. Oh, yeah, they set Hitler up, set him in power, just like they set the Soviets up. Carol Quigley writes about that in Tragedy and Hope. Let's go to another call. Sebastian in Tennessee. What's your take on this, Sebastian?
Hey, Alex, I was calling because yesterday, I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and there was a big music festival here. And I want to let you know the presence of the TSA. They also had explosive canine.
Oh, I know. I said there'll be public bombings, and they're going to roll TSA out everywhere. And let me grab it. Now I have USA Today, RR Stadium safer, TSA and Army searching people now. Yes, this is how they take over. So now there's an attack on a grocery store. They're going to have to search you there. But the borders are wide open. This is and the government runs Al-Qaeda. It's total crap. They're the terrorists, folks.
As I was going through there, they had SWAT people, and I went on to take pictures just to document it. But SWAT people walking there with their dogs, looking for something, and it's just insane. I mean, it made no sense,
Well, you got to remember, 3 people died, so America has to get rid of all its freedom. That's what you do. Everybody's guilty except the government. The government was all over that bombing. And even if they weren't, I lose my rights now, and they're training us to be prisoners because of one event. Send us the photos. Showtips at Infowars.com. And by the way, if you work in video editing or as a journalist or in camera or as internet sales, because I'm sick of just running ads locally, jobs at Infowars.com. That's the right email, right? Jobs at Infowars.com. I meant to add that for everybody because I want to just staff up now I want to go all in and just turbocharge, as much as we can, because there's so many projects I want to get done. I got probably like 100 projects partially finished I never did. Probably more than 100. I can't even remember. I was thinking about this morning. I could list like 40 of them. I was sitting there writing them down. It doesn't matter. I'll just work more to get out more. 7 o'clock tonight, prisonplanet.tv. Will you please work for liberty? This is not an exercise here. This is the real deal. Will you please spread the word about prisonplanet.tv? Will you please join us? Because if you'd like to know more, and if you'd like to know how to resist the globalist, then be sure and join us tonight at 7 o'clock when we go live from Planet Clandethu as we strike back against the New World Order and the bugs. That's Starship Trooper music. That's why I'm saying that. I actually said that to Denise Richards once. I said, I take you now live to Clandethu. Operations. Syria says that Israel airstrikes risk a wider conflict. They're blowing up military barracks, you name it. Desperately trying to get a response. And then if Syria responds, the news will say that Syria has preemptively and premeditatedly started the war first. And we'll go, wait a minute, for over 2 years, the West has been attacking them, including a NATO-backed Turkey with 3-day-long artillery barrages. It doesn't matter. That's how dumbed down the public is. All they know is they're foreigners, so kill them. That's all they know. And you've got the neocons giving Obama right cover, saying, how dare you not be tough on Syria? When Obama has been able to attack Libya, Syria, overthrow Egypt, and put all these globalists in power. I mean, this is hardcore what's happening. So we're going to be looking at that as well. Also, I have announced, and I do plan to go to Bilderberg 2013 in England. Over 130 people are blocked from entering England. Basically, they mix in a lot of patriots in with real terrorist groups and others. Michael Savage has been banned from going into the country. I don't know if they're going to ban me. I've been to England before. But if they do, that will just become a media event as well. I would rather actually get over there, cover it. People are always asking me to go to England. We're very popular in England. And I like to cover Bilderberg. I like to ferret out information. I do intend to go over there. Alex Jones calls on World Press to cover Bilderberg 2013. You can see my thoughts and points that I made with Paul Watson via Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com if you want to see that article and some of the photos and information there. But I'll be covering that more later in the broadcast. But Israel's launching more. They're now to 2 days of airstrikes on Syria. This is just incredible. Syria attacked no one. Syria has tried to work with the West. Assad was basically raised in England. He's been trying to work with the West, trying to make peace deals. And the answer is, no, you're going to be overthrown, and al-Qaeda is going to be put in charge, and they're going to ethically cleanse the Christians, the Jews, and minority Muslim groups. Syria will choose the moment to hit back. UN accuses Syrian rebels of carrying out sarin gas attacks, which have been blamed on Assad troops. And again, I don't ever think the UN's a good organization. It plays the left cover side, created by the Rockefellers. But the truth is, the al-Qaeda rebels a year ago videotaped themselves testing nerve gas and saying they would use it against Assad. They've been trying to get into their bases to get a hold of it. And then Israel says whether the al-Qaeda rebels get the nerve gas or whether Syrian government uses it, they're going to strike them because of it. I mean, Israel can't support NATO, the U.S., France, and Germany, and England, the U.K., in a 2+ year covert war. Now Obama announced heavy weapons to be given. And what did they list? Heat-seeking missiles. They've already given them the heat-seeking missiles. And on the cover of the BBC website, they showed a jihadi with a heat-seeking missile launcher on his shoulder that can shoot things down up to 5,000 feet. I'm going to say that again slowly. The West has given at least 10,000 heat-seeking missiles with a range, an effective range of 5,000 feet. They actually have more than that because I've seen the breakdown of the weapons they were given. They've also been given unguided rockets, point and shoot, that have an even longer range. Ladies and gentlemen, all they got to do is go to a European airport, an Israeli airport, a U.S. airport. You can sit back 2-3 miles from the airport. I mean, where I sit is close to the Austin airport, and the planes sometimes come in at 3,000, 4,000 feet. You could sit, I guess I'm like 4 miles away. You could sit 4 miles away from the Austin Bergstrom Airport. There it is, Seattle Times. Syrian rebels show off heat-seeking missile. Yeah, that was back in November of last year. That's a year ago. I mean, this is the type of craziness that we deal with here, almost a year ago. And when I fly, they'll say, hello, Mr. Jones, we're taking you over here to grab your testicles. Literally. They single me out for extra groping, extra harassment, and they call me Mr. Jones and laugh at me, and they laugh at Jesse Ventura when I fly with him, and grab his crotch and laugh, and then had the nerve to ask him for photos in Atlanta after they grabbed his testicles in front of me. And then Ventura wanted it erased off my phone. He was so embarrassed. He goes, I'm glad you documented it, but erase it off your phone, while we sat there at a Mexican food place eating. That's embarrassing. And that was when he made the decision. He goes, I'm not going to fly anymore after this season, and I may get out of this country for good. He began to say, this is East Germany. I'm sick of this. You all know who I am. You're laughing at me. And these women were laughing, rubbing all over him. They had women doing it. I mean, incredible photos. I'm sitting there going, because they'd already searched me. I'm just sitting there with my iPhone, click, click, click. I had like 30 photos. It was just like out of South Park. Literally, the exact characters out of South Park, the exact voice. South Park must have flown through Atlanta, because he was like, let me look inside you. I mean, this is what was going on. It was the exact people from the South Park episode. Obese black women. I guess here in Austin, it's obese white women. The point is that I sat there and I witnessed it. These would have been Drudge Report material photos. And he said, Alex, let me see you erase them. And I erased them. You want to see? He goes, I trust you. By the way, Ventura's back in town. Remind me to call him today. On the time to get him on before anybody else does. Nobody's been back for a few weeks. I need to go up there and go fishing with him. I know I'm invited to go fishing. I think I'm going to go fishing in Minnesota, except I don't want to be groped on my way up there. All right, side issue. Yes. You see those women, if you're watching us on TV? That is exactly what they look like. In fact, one of them looked just like her with the hair up. The other one looked like your light lady. I mean, I don't know how they did it. I thought I was in a South Park episode when this was happening, because that had just come out. You got to laugh at this stuff or you're going to have to cry, ladies and gentlemen. And I mean, I'm telling you, they took their time with Ventura when he really got mad, because it is a violation when they went behind him with their hands. And then I thought they were supposed to have the same sex search you. Quite frankly, I like a different sex doing it. You know, I mean, I'm not going after women when I get a massage, but I don't have men give me a massage. I've had it one time, and I thought it was creepy. So I like women to give me a massage. It's not even sexual. It's just that, you know, why is it okay that the same sex does it? Like if they want to drag my son off to a private screening room or want to grope him, it's like, don't worry, it's a pot-bellied guy with a mustache. I mean, I don't want my son being abused, having his innocence ruined by anybody. But if it's going to happen, I mean, at least let it be a hot blonde, you know. I mean, you know, excuse me. Or well, yeah, grandma, it's kind of creepy, man. Anyways, the point is that, well, why is it okay that you have these women that obviously like women? It's been written about in the press. In fact, that Miss USA talked about her. Was it Miss America? It was Miss USA in Dallas, how the woman was clearly enjoying it. There have been a bunch of good-looking actresses talk about how it's women and how they clearly get excited. There was a case in the Panhandle. Was it Amarillo? Yeah, they had to settle 2 years ago. They had a case in Amarillo where this woman was a knockout blonde, and the men got her aside, made her take her blouse off. And if you don't believe that, folks, they settled the case. And you've seen them take people's clothes off, you know, all those videos online, little kids, old women, colostomy bags they rip off. I mean, you name it. then they get mad at you when I mean, this is what goes on. And there she was in her bra crying, and then the men swarmed her. It was men doing it, and asked her for a date. And they sued, subpoenaed, got the surveillance footage, and they settled for a big chunk of change. TSA settles with Texas woman. Try that article. You can put it up. There it is. Lawsuit, airport search incidents, Amarillo, Globe News. Yeah, that's where she sued back in 2010. They settled the next year. TSA settles with Texas woman. And by the way, I tried to get her on, but they were in the lawsuit, so they wouldn't come on. So I'm supposed to, how did I digress? When I come back, we're going to get more into Syria coming up with Lou Rockwell. The bombshell. Obama says, hey, if you've got a business, you didn't build that. You didn't build the internet. The government did that. No, the human mind did that, not you. Now he says government is not tyranny, it is love. It cares about you in a sports stadium. Okay, so yesterday Obama gave a speech to Ohio State University graduates. And this is exactly the speech he's given over and over again that high-ranking Secret Service agent Bongino had to quit over last year, where he says the government is what creates prosperity. The government is what made America. Every philosopher, every historian from de Tocqueville right through to Oppenheimer, the inventor of the A-bomb, we read some of his quotes yesterday on air, said it is the individual ingenuity unbound by government that created so much wealth. And you're like, well, America hadn't been that free. That's right, it hasn't. But compared to other countries in the area of free market, it has been light years ahead. Light years. And you look at Switzerland, smaller government, light years ahead of Europe. You look at any country where they get out of people's way, the only problem is there's been so much prosperity and so much wealth that the children of the children of the children that made the country great become decadent slobs, and then organized crime sets in and takes over. And then you get a big, powerful government and country that's run by crooks, and then it's Nazi Germany time. You get a big, powerful, rich country that goes bad. The U.S. has gone bad, folks. We've been taken over. We're going to make Nazi Germany look like pikers. It's already happened. But our propaganda is so good, and nobody's beating us, the globalists that run us, the parasite globalists that have crawled inside our political brain and wrapped themselves around our brainstem. They are so good at their propaganda that they are able to continue forward, though it's starting to grind to a halt a little bit. So they're doubling down. The world is in an epic crisis. It was George Washington that said government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearsome master. And I've got more of those quotes coming up. But here's Ronald Reagan, two clips from two different speeches Ronald Reagan gave. Here it is.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. From time to time, we've been tempted to believe that society has become too complex to be managed by self-rule, that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people.
That was the central idea that won Reagan the presidency, a warning he had sounded consistently for years. You can hear it here in the speech that launched his political career.
This is the issue of this election.
It is your PrisonPlanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. If you've got a business, you didn't do that. You didn't build that. Somebody else made that possible. Yes, I'm quoting Barack H. Obama, and now he's back throwing it in everyone's face. As soon as I got off the air yesterday, I looked up at drudgereport.com with horror because it just shows how arrogant Obama has gotten. And there was the Real Clear Politics video of Obama yesterday that had just gone up. I saw it when it had like 30, 40 views, right when it had gone live. And there was Obama, right when I got off at 6 o'clock yesterday, at a commencement speech at a major university saying that we shouldn't think of government as something that's dangerous and filled with tyranny. Of course, it was George Washington that famously said that government is like fire, a dangerous servant and a fearful master. It was Ronald Reagan that said the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. And another one, in this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problems. Government is the problem. Let's play a clip of Ronald Reagan from 1981 with those famous words. Here it is.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. From time to time, we've been tempted to believe that society has become too complex to be managed by self-rule, that government by an elite group is superior to government for, by, and of the people.
That was the central idea that won Reagan the presidency, a warning he had sounded consistently for years. You can hear it here in the speech that launched his political career.
This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
This was Ronald Reagan's debut as the great communicator, the nationally televised speech for Barry Goldwater that put him on the political map back in 1964. In fact, it was a speech he had been perfecting for a good...
Okay. By the way, tonight on the Nightly News, I'm going to get some Ronald Reagan clips. I'm going to host the news live tonight, by the way, 7 o'clock Central. I'm going to get some clips of Reagan and Ron Paul and others versus Obama. And you can say what you want about Reagan, what he actually did. The special interests got out of control and government got bigger. But at least the rhetoric was good. With Obama, I mean, you've got a guy making sure that billionaires don't have to pay taxes while lobbying to have people that make a couple $100,000 a year to pay more taxes. Why do you have billionaires lobbying for that? Because most of them, like Warren Buffett, make their money out of government bailouts. I have an article here where profits were up 49% for Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett. And then they admit in the article, like it's no big deal, that, oh, by the way, Warren Buffett got most of that off derivatives that were propped up with taxpayer money. Of course, that pig, that anti-gun, globalist, eugenicist, Bill and Melinda Gates, #1 Obama supporter, of course that pig blocked the Keystone Pipeline to bring oil into Texas for the whole U.S. out of Canada. Because he owns the trains that are going to now bring it via tanker to the West Coast and put them on super tankers to China. These people are doing everything they can to shut America down while making giant profits out of a controlled monopoly. What's Atlas Shrugged all about? It's about where ultra-rich use government to shut down their competition. I mean, crony capitalism is the plague, is the enemy. And now we've got Obama at a sports stadium full of young people saying government is not tyranny. Government is our sweetie cake. Government will now take care of us. Yeah, it'll take care of you. I mean, unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. It is Monday, the 6th day of May, 2013. We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours. Lou Rockwell, the head of the Von Mises Institute, is going to be joining us to track the incredible world events with gold, with the dollar, with the EU gyrating out of control, plunging into an authoritarian death spiral. That's the creator of the euro is now saying that it's going to totally collapse. into a tyranny. Ron Paul and others talking about Europe collapsing as well. Ron Paul is in Europe right now. We've got some clips of that. We've got the unprecedented spectacle of a 28-month war against Syria using al-Qaeda jihadis, now culminating with Israel bombing chicken farms, military installations, bridges, chemical plants, and Syria is there laying down and taking it, and the media is denouncing Syria as warmongers and saying they deserve to be absolutely carpet bombed for doing nothing. And Israel is publicly siding with NATO and, of course, al-Qaeda in those Apple wallpaper. This is going to be explosive. InfoWars magazine, get it today. And by the way, this will sell out unlike any other publication. Of 9 publications, we've had 6 of them sell out. This one is set to sell out, it looks like, in 4 or 5 days if it continues. I'm tempted to have more printed, by the way, because they're selling so quickly and have more bumper stickers put on them. So again, anyways, InfoWarsStore.com is where you can find the subscription to the magazine and everything else. Pro Pure water filters, 10% off with promo code WATER. Now, there's a bunch of military news, economic news. Lou Rockwell's coming up. Ron Paul in Chile. Chile is the southernmost part of South America. I don't know why I said Europe. I was reading he's also going to be going to Europe soon, so that's why I said that. He's in South America right now. We're going to no one caught that out there, but I caught myself. Again, we make mistakes. When we do, I point them out. It's usually I flip things around because my brain's moving so quick. I know that happens to you as well. But we've got just a ton of important info we're going to be covering here today. It's just overwhelming. But I wanted to read to you some quotes here. This is from Thomas Jefferson. A private central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army. We must not let our rulers load us with perpetual debt. So that's one quote. And I've got some more of the Founding Father quotes I want to get to. But it's very important to go to Paul Watson's article on Infowars.com because it not only has Obama at the speech to a packed group of young, impressionable minds with the image of a giant jumbotron up above the stadium right out of 1984, but it has the Ronald Reagan speech to counter it, and I'm going to have Paul Watson add some Founding Father quotes to that as well. But one more time, let's play this Obama speech from yesterday afternoon where he doubles down on, you didn't build that. The state is the answer. I mean, that is North Korea talking. That is Nazi Germany talking. We know historically this is so diametrically opposed to what this country's been based on. You cannot debate that. And the fact that they're involved in this radical transformation, they're telling the military, you can't talk about Jesus. You can talk about anything else you want. Don't talk about Jesus. You have a right to talk about your faith. They're telling school kids all over America, you can't thank God at your commencement. Your commencement is your private statement. You could say, I love soccer. I love baseball. I love Marilyn Monroe. I love Schlitz malt liquor. I love Gatorade. I love Parcheesi. I love Tiddlywinks. I love gardening, or I owe this all to my dad or my single mom, that made me work hard, that I'm valedictorian.
So call us today or
First Amendment. The First Amendment clearly states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That means government can't be involved. The First Amendment says the government can't, at a public school, say we're now going to worship Muhammad, or we're going to, or the Prophet Muhammad. We're going to worship, Allah. We're going to worship the Virgin Mary. We're going to worship a rock. We're going to worship a whale. We're going to worship whatever it is you worship. We're going to worship dogs like the Zoroastrians do. The state can't do that. That's what Thomas Jefferson was talking about. And Christians don't even debate this, most of them that I hear on radio, from the right perspective. They're like, I hate Thomas Jefferson. He was anti-Christian. No, he wasn't. He said you have a right to practice whatever religion you want and to talk about it. The state cannot have an official religion. And so now they say, oh, troops can't talk about Jesus. Oh, you can't go at your commencement speech and talk about what you want. And that gets to the point where you can't say USA, USA, USA when a San Antonio basketball team is winning. That, by the way, they did the math, was half Hispanic, but the other team was more than half Hispanic and thought, because I guess they identify themselves as Mexicans, not Americans, that that was against them, when all it is the chant everyone does when they're feeling good now. I think it's quite mindless. I mean, I would chant USA, USA. Let's play some more of it. If we abolished the Federal Reserve, if we arrested David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger for crimes against humanity, if we restored the Republic, if we got rid of the IRS and the income tax that goes to the private Federal Reserve, if we educated people that vaccine science is real and may have some benefits for artificial immunity, but that the globalists have been caught adding stuff to it and are involved in a eugenics program to cull the herd and lower IQs. If we stopped using the Monsanto BT corn and stuff that kills the bugs that eat it, but then we're supposed to be able to safely eat it when it grows its own pesticide as a pharmacological crop. If that ever came out, and instead of us going from 1 in 25,000 with autism to 1 in 51 now, and people being brain damaged and illnesses everywhere from BT corn, and there's a big study out on it today. And if we started reversing the trend and it was 1 in 10,000 getting autism, I would say USA, USA, USA. When we win for the Second Amendment, when we reverse tyranny and restore what makes USA, USA, USA something worth chanting. But you don't chant USA, USA when the police lock down 80% of a city and come into houses and grab women who don't even look like the reported puppet, Patsy, and throw them down the stairs. That's when I chant USA, USA, USA. But I'm now digressing. Imagine Obama coming out and saying, if you got a business, you didn't build that. And then he wants a civilian full.
Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better than we can.
And, of course, he was quoting Thomas Jefferson there with the far distant elite. We're going to cover that when we come back. But here's Obama yesterday at Ohio State University in a sports stadium packed full of young people, because most of the new jobs will be in government or select corporations getting government money, corporate welfare. And here he was telling them, hey, government is the answer, and don't let people badmouth it. Well, the American way is to keep government small. Notice we didn't keep government small, so the prosperity, like oxygen disappearing out of a submarine, is dissipating. Let's go ahead and go to that clip of Obama yesterday.
We, the people, chose to do these things together because we know this country cannot accomplish great things if we pursue nothing greater than our own individual ambition. Unfortunately, you've grown up hearing voices that incessantly warn of government as nothing more than some separate, sinister entity that's at the root of all our problems. Some of these same voices also do their best to gum up the works. They'll warn that tyranny is always lurking just around the corner. You should reject these voices, because what they suggest is that our brave and creative and unique experiment in self-rule is somehow just a sham with which we can't be trusted. We have never been a people who place all of our faith in government to solve our problems. We shouldn't want to. But we don't think the government is the source of all our problems either, because we understand that this democracy is ours.
All right, that's enough.
And as citizens, we understand.
I'm going to come back and analyze this, but we're a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And the government is foreign run now. And if we ever recognize that America has been hijacked, that will be the beginning of the end for these people. That's why they're responding to us, because they know that we're getting the message out. Stay with us. They are tyrants. Alex Jones here, back live. We're here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. It's 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. And then we come back weeknight, 7 o'clock, InfoWars Nightly News. If you're not a subscriber at InfoWarsNews.com or PrisonPlanet.tv, now is the time. 11 memberships for $5.95 a month. That's less than 55 cents per person. You create one master username passcode, share it with 30, 40 friends and family, because it's very unlikely that 11 people will tune in simultaneously. 11 people simultaneously can tune in to the nightly news show, get the video feed of the daytime show, see all my films, ebooks, dozens and dozens and dozens of other films. For the last few years, it's all been going up there in high def as well. The streams obviously aren't, because most computers can't handle that. But the point is, you then also pay for the bandwidth. Now, again, create a username passcode that you can share, create an e-card, and give it to 30, 40, 50 people in your family. If you try to log in then one night, and you can't log into InfoWars Nightly News, mission completed. More than 11 people are now using the username passcode. Go and get another membership for $5.95 a month. The message is, wake people up. If I had unlimited money and could just pay to have the bandwidth, to have InfoWars Nightly News and everything we do for free, I'd do it. But that's not a model that's sustainable. So we use the free market. We're hiring more reporters, more crew, adding more graphics people, more researchers. It's all happening right now. So become a part of the revolution against tyranny, part of the restoration of the republic. You have built Infowars.com. You have supported Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. You have supported this radio show, and we support your liberties and freedoms as well. We are brethren. We are, to use the communist term, but in a liberty fashion, fellow travelers. We're on the same team. We're together in this fight. And I want to thank all of you that have been PrisonPlanet.tv members, and I want to encourage everyone that is, make it today the day you send the username passcode out to everyone you know. Or if you don't want to share that membership, create a new membership. Go get another membership and give it to friends and family. Buy the books, buy the videos. By the way, will somebody run me in the new magazine? It's right over here, but I can't reach it. Let me do a plug right now before I get back into Obama. This is the, I don't know, 9th issue of the magazine. It is the May issue. And if you're listening in Central Texas, you're in a very special place, because there are 60,000 of these on the streets of Austin, 20,000 on the streets of San Antonio, and another 10,000 or so smattered around in different areas of Central Texas. 30,000 or so are held back to be able to be shipped out to you at cost. You can either buy them in 10 packs up to 100 at cost, or you can get a subscription. Gift subscriptions are the way to go, because then somebody gets 12 of these in their mail. Great way to wake them up. Big, glossy magazine covering the history of staged terror, the attack on the Second Amendment, the whole police state, how to awaken America. It's all in the new issue. The history of false flags, and, ladies and gentlemen, so much more, like 3 high quality, not paper, but plastic, the big, heavy, petroleum-based, that lasts for years. Infowars.com, Save the Constitution bumper sticker, PrisonPlanet.com bumper sticker, and Infowars.com bumper sticker. What a weapon. We're talking, I did the math, 200,000 bumper stickers in Central Texas right now, waiting on the free newsstands for you to get them and post them in legal and lawful areas. This should be explosive. I want everybody to go out, get them, post them. And this is a test to bomb other cities with info weapons. Legal and lawful areas, your property, your car, or in commons where people, some bars or areas let you put up stickers, or restaurants. The point is, that's like